Good evening, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for being here, and thank you to everyone viewing remotely. I'll call to order the closed session of the Mayor and City Council at 5:31 p.m. Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Sanchez?
Here.
Councilmember Ibarra is not present at the moment. Councilmember Figueroa?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem? Councilmember Reynoso will not be joining us today due to a family emergency. No, he won't. Councilmember Calvin?
Present.
Councilmember Alexander is joining us remotely via Zoom, and he's signed on in the closed session room. And Mayor Tran?
Here. Thank you. Madam City Clerk, do we have any public comments?
We do not.
Thank you. We will now convene in Good evening, everyone. Welcome and thank you for being here, and thank you to those viewing remotely. I call to order this joint regular meeting of the Mayor and City Council and the Mayor and City Council acting as the successor agency to the Redevelopment Agency of the City of San Bernardino at 7:03 p.m. Pastor James Grant from Soldier for Christ Church will lead tonight's invocation, and Melanie Delgadillo from Arroyo Valley High School will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Please approach the podium at this time, and please rise.
Good evening, everyone. Let's pray. In the name of Jesus, Lord, we love you and we thank you tonight, Lord Jesus. We ask you, Lord, to touch every leader here in San Bernardino, Lord Jesus, that they do the right thing for your people, Lord. We thank you, Lord, for all that is going to occur here in this meeting. Lord Jesus, let things come out right. In Jesus' mighty name we pray. Amen.
Thank you. Thank you, Pastor.
Place your right hand over your heart. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor. Thank you, Melanie. Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Sanchez?
Here.
Councilmember Ibarra?
Present.
Councilmember Figueroa?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem? Councilmember Reynoso will not be joining us tonight due to a family emergency. Councilmember Calvin?
Present.
Councilmember Alexander is joining us via Zoom. Thank you. Mayor Tran?
Here. Thank you. City Attorney, is there anything to report from closed session?
Hi, Mayor, members of the council, members of the public. We have one item of reportable action on our conference with legal counsel, existing litigation, and item Blanca Gamas versus Jonathan Plummer in the San Bernardino Superior Court case matter. In that case, the City Council approved a settlement of $325,000 by unanimous vote of all present. That's all I have.
Thank you. Before we conduct city business, as a friendly reminder, as the elected leaders of the city, we will endeavor to be respectful to each other, our public, and especially our staff. Our behavior this evening sets the tone for how our residents, business community, and others view our city. Please exercise mindfulness and respect towards our public speakers. We must conduct city business with professionalism and respectful behavior to build trust, credibility, and move our city forward. We shall commit to these values and foster a positive, productive work environment that is conducive to achieving our goals effectively and efficiently. Moving on to presentations. We have two presentations. First one is the proclamation for California Native American Day in the city of San Bernardino. Would be proclaimed September 22nd, 2023, and will be accepted by Vanessa Briarty, District Director from Assembly James Ramos' office. Is it on? Hello. Okay. So be proclaimed by the Mayor and City Council of San Bernardino that the City of San Bernardino officially recognizes the importance of California Native American Day, celebrated every day on the fourth Friday of September, and this year on September 22nd, 2023. The City of San Bernardino encourages residents, educational institutions, and community organizations to observe California Native American Day through activities, events, and educational initiatives that promote understanding, cultural exchange, and respect for California Native American traditions and contributions. The City of San Bernardino encourages local businesses and organizations to support California Native American artisans, entrepreneurs, and cultural initiatives through partnerships, collaborations, and sponsorship opportunities. The City of San Bernardino calls upon neighboring jurisdictions to recognize California Native American Day as an official observance, highlighting the importance of honoring and respecting the Native American people and their contributions to our society, presented this 16th day of August 2023. Thank you. Do you want to say?
Sure. Guatsi Hopa Doastra Washrap. I'm Vanessa Brierty from the Pueblo of Laguna, and I'm also joined here by one of our field representatives, Jack Lugo from the Morongo Band of Mission Indians. And on behalf of Assemblymember Ramos and the California Native American Legislative Caucus, we want to extend our sincerest appreciation to the city and to the council members for this recognition of September 22nd being California Native American Day. California is home to the largest population of Native American tribes in the nation, as well as Native Americans in general, due to various relocation acts that were put forward. So just as Mayor said, we encourage you all to learn and engage with the local tribes in the area and understand their long-lasting contributions that have been given to the city, to the state, as well as the nation. And we also encourage you all to join us and Assemblymember Ramos on September 22nd at Cal State San Bernardino, where we will have various tribes from throughout the state of California celebrating their culture through songs and through dance and also food. So that'll happen at Cal State San Bernardino, September 22nd at 6 p.m. So again, thank you to Mayor and to the San Bernardino City Council for this great proclamation.
Council members would like to join me? Thank you, thank you. Second proclamation, right? Thank you. Thank you so much. All right. Yes, stay together. We're a team. We have one more proclamation. Proclamation of the Mayor and City Council proclaiming August 31st, 2023 as International Overdose Awareness Day in the City of San Bernardino. And accepting this would be James Detman, and I believe Teresa. Thank you. Come up. Whereas the City of San Bernardino does affirm and acknowledge the harm and hardship caused by drug overdose, and whereas we recognize the purpose of International Overdose Awareness Day as a remembering loved ones lost to overdose and ending the stigma of drug-related deaths, and whereas we resolve to play our part in reducing the toll of overdose in our community, which claimed the lives of more than 496 residents of San Bernardino County and over 12,000 Californians, San Bernardino County, California residents last year, together with countless more affected forever. And whereas we affirm that the people affected by overdose are our sons and daughters, our mothers and fathers, our brothers and sisters, and deserving of our love, compassion, and support. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the Mayor and City Council of San Bernardino, do hereby proclaim August 31st, 2023 as International Overdose Awareness Day in the City of San Bernardino, presented this 16th day of August 2023. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, actually, next presentation, we have the Demand Management Incentive Program check presentation. San Bernardino Valley Municipal Water District. We have the San Bernardino Valley Municipal Water District team. Are you all here? Please come up. Heather Dyer, Gil Bateo, Susan Longville, Kelly Malloy, Chavon, I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name, Turner, and the San Bernardino Municipal Water Department, Miguel Guerrero, Ricky Van Johnson, David Malinarski, and Devin Arciniega. Actually, so we should, council members would like to join me to come down? Oh, yes. Okay.
Thank you so much, Mayor Tran and members of the council. My name is Heather Dyer. I'm the CEO, General Manager of the San Bernardino Valley Municipal Water District. I'm so honored and pleased to be here tonight to present to the City of San Bernardino Municipal Water Department this incentive check for demand management, which essentially means that we are promoting people and agencies leaving water in our groundwater basin so that it will be available in the future during the very dry times. This is a brand new program. This is the first year that we've done this. The City of San Bernardino was the highest saver in our program, and so we're very happy to present a check for $267,000 and some change to the water department. I commend Miguel Guerrero and his staff for doing a great job leading by example. And with that, I will turn it over to my two board members who represent the people and businesses of this area.
Thank you for giving us a couple of minutes. We presented this check to the water department last week, but we wanted our minute before the city council because $267,000 is real money. And next year, we have doubled the challenge, we've tripled the challenge, and we are offering 3 times as much. City of San Bernardino could very likely take home $1 million by participating in this innovative program that doesn't say, oh, here's this rebate, here's this rebate, here's this program. Try and get your residents interested. Instead, we say to all of our retailers, you figure out how to reduce demand, you do it, we'll pay you, you decide how to spend the money. And they've done it, and they are creative, and they are talented, and we are so honored to work with them. So I hope we come back, and we have another comma in there for you.
Honorable Mayor, Council, it's an honor to be in what Councilmember Calvin calls the People's House to present this check. And as my colleague Susan Longville said, next year we've tripled the incentive, so hopefully we'll be presenting a $1 million check to our community. Thank you. It's an honor to be here. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Okay, moving on to presentation. The next presentation is the lead connector update to the mayor and city council. Could we begin with the staff's presentation presented by San Bernardino Municipal Water Department General Manager Miguel Guerrero?
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and Council. Providing a quick, brief update on the Water Department's lead service lateral replacement program. I'll start with a little bit of background on just laterals in general. There are two types that we manage. We have the sewer system and we have the water system. On the sewer side, what you see in the figure here, demarcation of responsibility for a homeowner starts at the sewer main, which is out in the street. So from the sewer main to the house. On the water side's a little different. The level of the responsibility demarcation is at the meter. So the water department is responsible for maintaining the lateral from the water, from the sewer, or the water main that's in the street to the meter that typically is located in a sidewalk. In some cases, you'll see it in a parkway. If there's no parkway, it'll be in someone's yard. Ideally, it's on public right-of-way and it's not in private property. Because we maintain the meter box and the meter, we want to make sure we have unrestricted access to it. So, but we do come across some situations where the meter boxes are located on the private property side. It's still the responsibility of the water department. The focus of this presentation is on the water side, on the water service lateral. So this is just a little more detail on the water service lateral, and I'll start at the water main, which is typically located in the street. There are some areas of the city where you have a water main actually underneath the sidewalk. Not ideal, but it's been in place for a while. Our water system is over 100 years old, so we've changed things and our way we do things over the years for the better. One thing we don't do anymore is put water mains under sidewalks. So. But I'll start at the water main. You typically have a corporation stop, which is a way to shut off the service at the main. And from that point, then you have the actual pipe. The service connections are typically 5/8 inch, which is our typical service size, 5/8 inch diameter. That's what a single family residence typically has. But our biggest connection is actually 12 inches, and that's Cal State San Bernardino. Cal State San Bernardino has the biggest connections. They actually have a couple of them because they like to loop their system. On site, they essentially have their own water system. So and it comes in on opposite sides of the campus. So the size of the water service varies significantly. The material also varies. So this pipeline material varies. And then once you go through this pipeline, you end up in a meter box and where you have another shut-off valve. And this is typically where if we get called out, we go out and we shut that off and allow then the private property or the owner to do whatever they need to do on their end. And then in the meter box, you also have the meter where we get consumption information. That's how a resident or a customer typically gets billed based on the amount of water that's actually used. So when we talk about the lead service lateral program, we're talking about this piece from the water main to the meter box. As far as materials go, we have over 45,000 services in the system. Most of them, about 85% of them, are copper. We have other materials like galvanized steel, polyethylene, which is a type of plastic. We have some unknown ductile iron, steel, and cast iron. The ideal material is copper, especially for the smaller ones. It's malleable, it's strong, durable, so that's what you'll see mostly in our system. As you get into the larger sizes, copper doesn't work, so then we get into steel or ductile iron, which is why we have a few of those. You'll probably notice from the title of this slide, it's from 2018. Every year we submit an electronic annual report to the state. It's a requirement from all water suppliers to ensure that all water suppliers are complying with state water permits and also to gather information from water suppliers across the state. So the reason I have 2018 is because that's when this program actually started, the lead service lateral replacement program. In 2016 and 2017, there was a couple Senate bills that shaped this program. So legislation from these bills required all water suppliers or community water systems to inventory their services by July 1st of 2018. And there was 3 areas of focus in this inventory, all aimed at removing and ensuring that there are no lead services or services that may contain lead material in them. So these 3 categories, starting with the first one, was just all lead services. If we know they're actual made up of lead, they should no longer be as part of our service. Luckily, well, not luckily, we don't have any in our system. So we don't have any services that are lead, strictly lead. The second category was, that we had to identify were lead fittings on any service line or pipe. And this area was a little gray because we took an ultra-conservative approach. And we couldn't have, or we don't have identifiers that say we use lead fittings on any of our services. But we do know, just from knowledge in the industry, that typically galvanized services may have lead fittings. So we identified all galvanized service lines. So that amounted to just over 2,700. And then we had unknown. If we didn't know the material of the service lines, then we needed to investigate and know what the materials were, just in case they contained any lead, and we then would have to remove or replace the services. So in all, we identified nearly 5,000 out of the 45,000 services as potentially having lead material. Not entirely, but the fittings or any sort of material. So we had to then work from there. That was our starting point. The legislation then required us to produce a plan, develop a plan, and submit to the state by July 1st of 2020. And from that point on, we were to provide updates by April 30th of every year. So we just submitted our last update this past April. And then execution of the plan isn't necessarily dictated by the legislation. They just want to know that you're progressing. And our plan is scheduled to be completed by the end of 2024. So this next slide shows a figure of our entire water service area, and it's colorful, and I know it's small, so you can't really. But what I'd like to focus on here is just a variation in color. You have two types. You have orange, which signifies galvanized, and you have a purplish color, which signifies unknown. So you can see in the 2018, when we identified nearly 5,000, we had a pretty colorful map. But again, that was our starting point. In 2021, after a good amount of work by staff to go through records, do field verifications, that number went down significantly, and our map wasn't as colorful. So there are two areas that I've highlighted that you'll see, Area 1 and Area 2. Area 1 is in the Musco area, just south of the Cimarron track. Initially, we thought it was part of the Cimarron track, but it's not. It's actually in county area south of Cimarron. That area, and also the other area, San Anselmo, that is in the city of San Bernardino. Those two areas were identified initially and actually were approved for ARPA funding by the council. So those were two projects that were identified and approved for ARPA funding. So this last slide just shows the progression in the program. So I'll start again in the beginning, where we had nearly 5,000, and then 19 and to 2020, that number went down to 1,400. We did, again, extensive research, data cleanup, field verifications. A lot of what we thought was unknown, we were quickly able to figure out that we didn't know the material, or by doing field verifications, we were able to figure that out, and that number went down to 1,400. Then as we continued to do our work, it went down to 884. And at that point in 2021, 2022, that number included San Anselmo, and it included the Musco area, and then included a lot of sort of scattered services. That year, we then did field verifications in San Anselmo. We went out, we had staff out there for 3 days, popping open water meters and making sure, or confirming that they were lead. And what was confirmed is that they had no lead. All the services in San Anselmo are copper, which is the ideal material. So that was actually great news. But we got a lot of that good news as we progressed through this program, because again, we started at 5,000, and now we're sitting at 585. Now, the 585 still includes the Musco area, which is an ARPA-funded project, but it also includes all the other scattered areas where we've identified unknown or lead services that need additional work. We actually just awarded to a contractor the work for everything outside of that Musco area. That was awarded a couple water board meetings ago, and we'll soon be awarding the work for the Musco area. And once those two are complete, we will have executed the plan, and we're looking at the end of summer for the execution of that plan. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Excellent presentation and great job on the progress. That's really, really helpful for us to understand. Any comments or Mayor Pro Tem, and then
No
followed by
questions,
Councilwoman.
because it was such a great presentation, and you're making such good progress that we don't need to question you at all. The Water Department's in good hands, without a doubt, and it's a great presentation, and we thank you very much, and
Appreciate that.
it very
Thank you.
much. Thank you.
Thanks.
Councilwoman?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Miguel, for that presentation. I do appreciate that. And I did receive a few comments from some constituents, but I think that you've covered, you probably have answered those questions for them. But my only question is that in 2022, when we did confirm that there were no lead services, there was all copper, so there was no tracking of when that was changed from the lead piping to the copper piping?
It started with copper. We just didn't have the information, proper information. That track was built in the late 50s, early 60s, and then you have other areas that were built after that. But that's when the development of San Anselmo happened. And at that time, copper was being used. And so we confirmed that there was copper.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, an excellent presentation. Oh, Councilwoman Ibarra?
Great presentation, great work.
Thank you.
Miguel. I guess the only question I have is going to be on the third page where we're talking about the water service lateral. I know there's some homes, let's say in the north end of town, that don't have sidewalks. So what is the usual rule of where you would consider property line for those homes that don't have a set property line, like the whole front lawn, it goes out to the street, there's no sidewalk. So how would we determine where the property line lays for homeowner and then the city?
Well, there's no sidewalk. We do know where the property lines are. We update our GIS data and have county property information, property line information. So we're able to tell where public right-of-way is versus private property, the private property line.
Okay, so
So-
there's like no set footage from the street to the property?
So one area around the golf course, for example, some areas don't have sidewalk. I've seen in those areas where from the curb, you have about 10 to 15 feet from the curb till you get to the property line. That's why a lot of those trees are considered city trees, even though they may look like they're not, because they look like they're in front of someone's lawn. But it just depends on the area. But we never want to put a water meter in private property. So we ensure before we do install anything that we're within the public right-of-way.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, at this time, we move on to our appointments. Madam City Clerk, do we have any public comments for the appointments?
No, we do not.
Thank you. Thank you. There's a motion and second to approve item number 5, Library Board appointment of James C. Pearson. Mayor Pro Tem Charette moved and seconded by Councilmember Figueroa.
Councilmember Sanchez?
Yes.
Councilmember Ibarra?
Yes.
Councilmember Figueroa?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes.
Councilmember Calvin?
Yes.
Councilmember Alexander?
Aye.
Mayor?
Yes,
Motion passes unanimously.
thank you. May I have the honor of inviting Mr. James C. Pearson to the podium, please?
May I have you state your name, please?
James Pearson.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that you will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California against all enemies, foreign and domestic? That you will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California? That you take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that you will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which you're about to enter?
I do.
Thank you. I just want to say a few words to the audience. Mr. Pearson's deep-rooted connection to San Bernardino, spanning nearly 5 decades, along with his esteemed tenure as a former Cal State University San Bernardino professor, dedicated patron of our city's libraries, and his active involvement with the San Bernardino Library Foundation and Friends of the Library undoubtedly make him an invaluable addition to our library board. We extend our heartfelt congratulations and gratitude for his unwavering commitment to our city's betterment. Thank you, Mr. Pearson. Do you want to say a few words?
I just want to thank the mayor for giving me the opportunity to spend even more time in the library.
At this time, public comments will be heard. In-person speakers will be heard first, followed by remote speakers. To address the City Council, each individual must fill out a speaker slip. A speaker slip must be completed and turned into the city clerk at this time. Only those speaker cards turned into the city clerk will be allowed to address the City Council. No late cards will be accepted. Each person should state their name for the record. Please note that at 8 p.m., we will pause public comment and proceed with the public hearings. Public comments will resume after the closing of the last public hearing. If you require Spanish interpretation, we do have an interpreter on site. Please,
Item 25.
oh, I'll complete this and then I'll go to you, Mr. City Manager. Please raise your hand at this time to indicate you will need translation assistance. In addition, we have interpreting listening devices available in the back. Please note that the interpreter will be dismissed if we do not receive any requests for interpretation by 9 p.m. And before we go to the interpreter to make an announcement in Spanish, Mr. City Manager, did you have an announcement?
Yeah, Madam Mayor, members of the council, I would like to request that item 25 be pulled.
Okay.
And
So if there's any public comments for item 25, please, those who want to make comments for that item is pulled from tonight's agenda. And so there's no need to make any comments for that item. Mayor Pro Tem Charette?
Thank you very much. This has been kind of a hot topic, I think, and I think we ought to give the public a reason why we're pulling it off.
Sure. In looking at this, I think there was some miscommunication about the approval of this item and bringing it back. So we're going to go back, because I think it's still necessary to have the council on this, and I don't think we've got the direction from this council.
This item is, it's never going to come back.
Right.
On
That's what I'm
this
saying,
one, yeah,
on
20
this one.
Yeah, but why is it never going to come back?
Well, this item is, in order for the council to take action on this item, number one, you'd have to do that. But the last meeting, you voted on the employee, but you did not vote to request that this one be brought back to the council. Does that make sense?
Well, that's,
No.
Mr. City Manager, from my understanding, I believe because there's two separate items.
yeah, if I can, I'll give you my, correct me if I'm wrong. This was put on as tonight, directed specifically at the mayor and council, the electeds.
That's correct.
And what we've determined is that's never going to come back because we are not qualified.
Yes.
And that's what needs to be said, that we are not qualified for that through ARPA rules.
Right.
And so I think that's the clarification.
Yeah.
So when it does come back, it's going to have, the discussion is going to be about the amounts. I mean, albeit we gave you some direction on that, it's going to come back and talk about the amounts and whether it's full-time or part-time, and those are going to be the issues, but it'll have nothing to do with us.
Right, but you've already approved the other one for the employees. So there's nothing, we have to bring back the other one because of the resolution requires that you approve that.
Right, and I
portion.
understand that, and I'm just trying to make it clear to the public that this item 25, it's
Right.
25, or whatever
25,
number it is,
correct.
it has nothing to do with anything,
That's correct,
because it was never asked to be put on the agenda.
correct. And that's what I'm saying, it was never requested, so it shouldn't have been.
It should never have been
Exactly.
put on, right.
Right.
Council member.
I guess we'll go offline and ask how it got on there.
And that's what I'm saying, it should never have been put on the agenda, and so I'm requesting that it be pulled.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Council member Calvin?
So, City Manager, I'm a little bit confused. In my request, or when we were having the discussion, we could not discuss it at that time because it had not been agendized, if I understand that correctly. And what we wanted was clarification for the community to understand that we, as mayor and council, never considered ourselves as a full-time employee. It is what we are not that. So we needed to have clarification for community that we would not be recipients of these ARPA funds. So I thought that that is why it was coming back for us to be able, for that clarification to be made, who exactly it was for.
Right, but in looking at this, it said staff has analyzed this, and we still need to verify, but understanding at this point is that, our understanding at this point is that you're not eligible for this. Okay?
Right, because the last action the council took was for employees, city
Employees, right.
employees, not electeds.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments from my other colleagues? No? Seeing none, our interpreter will now make the announcement in Spanish. Gracias.
Thank you. En este momento se escucharán los comentarios públicos. Primero se escucharán los oradores en persona, seguidos de los oradores remotos. Para dirigirse al Consejo Municipal, cada individuo debe completar una tarjeta de orador. Se debe completar la tarjeta de orador y entregarla a la secretaria municipal en este momento. Solo aquellas tarjetas de orador entregadas a la secretaria municipal podrán dirigirse al Consejo Municipal. No se aceptarán tarjetas tardías. Cada persona debe indicar su nombre para el registro. A las 8 p.m. pasaremos las audiencias públicas y completaremos el resto de los comentarios públicos, después de cerrar la última audiencia pública. Si necesita interpretación en español, tenemos un intérprete presente. Por favor, levante la mano en este momento para indicar que requiere servicios. También tenemos aparatos disponibles para escuchar la Junta en español. Si no recibimos solicitud para los servicios de interpretación antes de las 9, el intérprete se retirará.
Gracias. Madam City Clerk, how many speakers do we have tonight?
We have 22 speakers.
22. Okay, and each speaker will have 3 minutes. Madam City Clerk, please call the speakers. If you hear a name, please start lining up behind the podium.
Okay, the first speaker is Veronica Hernandez, followed by Pastor William Ricks, Cheryl Boyd, Al Palazzo, Ricky Van Johnson, Daryl Wilson.
Thank you. Please state your name. You could turn on the mic, please. Thank you.
Veronica Munoz. Hi, I'm with the Wildwood Park Neighborhood Association, and I prepared a letter for you guys, which I have copies for you after. First, we would like to extend a thank you to Parks and Rec and Public Works for their hard work in trying to keep our parks a safe space for all. Second, in order to help our city progress and make changes, we must all petition our state legislation to help our police enforce law and order. We ask our mayor and city council to help back up our police department by being present in conversations at county, state, and federal levels, and to be the voice of the people in our city. We must continue to be present in order to be aware of laws and have our voices heard. So presence is a big, big deal. We've got to make sure that we're everywhere, wherever we can be, to make sure that we represent our city and continue representing our cities. I do see the effort that's been put forth with that. I'm here mainly in regards to Tom Gould Memorial Park and Wildwood Park. So we reported several issues using the Go SB City app at Tom Gould Park, and the items were addressed. The park had become a place of lawlessness and was a danger to the public, nearby residences, and businesses. It became out of control during the closure of nearby Wildwood Park for maintenance. Residents of Wildwood Park, and I'm saying residents of the park, relocated to Tom Gould and were now much bolder and more in view of the public. These persons were dropping their pants in the middle of Tom Gould Park to defecate. During the daytime, were conducting in sexual activity in public, open alcohol containers in the park, illegal drug use in the park, including cars that were pulling right up to the park, selling drugs during the day. Very boldly, they weren't hiding it, nobody was hiding it. And prostitution going on all along 40th Street, which went from Wildwood back and forth to Tom Gould Park. Police had been called out on several occasions by community members due to the rising concerns, including quads racing in the park. Unfortunately, the way the current laws are, police are limited on how they can address such quality of life issues for tax-paying and law-abiding citizens. We truly appreciate the cleanup that occurred at Tom Gould Park and the resources that were provided out there for the people that were on site at the time. Again, this is why I was saying thank you to Parks and Rec. They came in, they fixed the fence, they removed some benches that were not ADA compliant. And since then, the park, thank goodness, has stayed nice and clean. And I saw families in there this week, which was a very, very good turn. Secondly, Wildwood Park. That's a park which is seen by thousands of people passing through. It's passed by cars who exit out Waterman, head up the mountain, not just by local residents or residents of the mountain community, but also by a large amount of visitors and vacationers. It's the last site before they head up the mountain and the first site on their
Thank
way
you.
back down.
Thank you.
Okay. I've got copies for you guys.
Thank you
with
so
the rest of
much.
it. Thank you.
Next speaker, please state your name.
Pastor William Ricks. Okay, I'm a tenant that was staying at the location of 340 West 4th Street in San Bernardino, located right there on Arrowhead between 4th and D Street. One of the tenants in there, as being that I've been there from the pretty much start of COVID and after. As an original tenant, we have been gone through a lot of litigation with the courts and with the city about this property. The fact that only about 32 people were actually able to get motel vouchers to relocate out of about 200 is atrocious. Me being one of them that's also disabled with cancer, and I have in-home care providers living with me, it's very hard for me to try to get everything out by tomorrow morning and into a storage which has to be reassessed, and still even trying to find a place. The fact that only about 50 or 60 people in the whole entire building will be able to had been relocated, whether a shelter or not. I'm not able to go into a shelter or a men's home due to the cancer, and I have a home provider. Now, we have other tenants that are here. My mother was going to be speaking after Ms. Board, but she will not be able to because she had to attend to other things. But with that property, we are actually in litigation in court against the owner because he also filed on February of this year for evictions and to get everyone out of the building. However, the judge had ordered to ratify that he was supposed to pay us to relocate us. We have not seen any of that ever done, and yet we are being displaced as of tomorrow morning. The fact that I understand that the site of the building in the area is not pleasurable to the city, which I understand that completely, but it's not the original tenant's faults. It's the fact that when we got through most of this, a lot of the stuff got broken into and then people just started coming into the building. Due to that, we're just asking for a couple days to extend so that we can at least find suitable places for us to leave. Because 3 days is no way to be able to find in a place for anyone, especially with the way that rent has just gone up from $800 last December to right now $1,900 plus for a 2-bedroom apartment, where most places were only about $800 to $900 to start off with. That's over 1,000% increase on the charge. So we need some type of assistance and help if y'all can. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker, please state your name.
Yeah, my name is Darrell Wilson, and I kind of got, I guess, a question, subject, suggestion. First, I want to say I'm part of, the displaced the community out here, unfortunately. I just was evicted from my apartment that I lived in for 5 years through basically illegal, means. I know that technically they had to go through the law of the unlawful detainer, and, basically I was one of the ones who I'd never received any notice. And the only thing I received was a notice from the sheriff basically telling me to leave. This was July 5th. So, I mean, a few other series went down. To sum it all up, it's a very, very long story, but to sum it all up, the reason for the unlawful detainer was incorrect. It shouldn't even have been heard, but I understand from the judges and the lawyers, their perspective, the laws have been changing rapidly. So I understand it's hard for everybody to keep up. But what happened was the reason that they used for the eviction was incorrect. But like I said, I understand them not knowing that because the judge has no reason to assume that they did anything wrong. They assume that, the paperwork was filed correctly, and it wasn't. I can prove that as well. And then the other part of it was I was in a coronavirus rent relief program. I have tried to find exactly who the program was that was paying the rent, and magically they're gone. There's no trace of them. There's no way to find out who paid any rent. I know for sure that there was a $7,700 payment towards my rent, and 211 has no idea. United Way has no idea. I've called the county building. They have no idea. They have no idea who was supposed to be paying the coronavirus rent relief program, the rent at that time. And I've been to legal aid. The closest thing that they can do for me is basically set me up for a hearing to get the eviction taken off my record, which is fine, you know, that's for my credit and everything else, but currently I'm living on the streets. I'm literally in a tent. I've been homeless for 44 days, and it's just, it's highly unrecommended. But I don't know what avenues to go to next for that. I've talked to civil rights lawyers, and they've informed me that the only people who can violate your civil rights are people of, like, police, the government. So as citizens, I'm not even eligible for that. So that was my one issue. And then the second issue, before my time runs out, I just wanted to speak on, because like I said, I am part of the displaced crew newly. And I think to combat this problem, I think we need to see this as a mental health challenge, honestly, because...
Thank you.
I just, you know, but thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Next speaker, please state your name.
My name is Al Palazzo, Mayor and Council members. I'm going to speak on consultants. You don't need consultants. I can give you a very thorough vision covering all categories of developments, including a dozen support categories. Then I can explain how these ideas can be implemented, not costing the city any money, by creating the conditions that will bring investment from the private sector, the business community. I come to every city council meeting, and I have yet to have all of you reach out to me to have conversations on how we can rebuild this city. What is it going to take to be invited to have a seat at your table? I guess I will have to wait until you have the ganas. But we have a lot of important work to do, and I can help you. All of you need to be the voice promoting our city to the business community. You need to speak their language, how it is in their best interest to take advantage of the conditions that will help their businesses grow. We can do anything and everything in San Bernardino. You are not talking to the right people. I wish I could get into specifics, but I still feel that there's no communication between us. I know you are busy, and it's hard to find the time to meet with your constituents. But I wish we could have a brief conversation when I see you anywhere, where I could drop a key idea. I invested 10 years in developing a vision for this city. I take people on a tour to cut to the chase. I have 3 phases for implementation, and each phase has 3 major steps. I know this sounds arrogant, but after I share my ideas, I always ask the question, do you have a better idea? I would like to hear it. Because if you don't, if you're considering consultants, you don't have a vision. You might have goals, but you don't have a vision. I have one for you. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please state your name.
Good evening, Ricky Van Johnson. On Sunday, August 26, Ecclesia Christian Fellowship will present guest speaker and Los Angeles County Deputy Rafer Owens, who serves as pastor of Faith Inspirational Missionary Baptist Church in Compton, California. LA Deputy Owens joined the Sheriff Department in 1986 and knows Compton so well, some call him the unofficial mayor. In 2006, he partnered with area churches to found the Compton Initiative, a 40-year commitment to improve and restore the city through painting homes, schools, and churches. In 2014, he wrote The 7 Pillars of Community Leadership, a guide to building a better relationship between law enforcement and the communities that they serve. He firmly believes that as a team, law enforcement and the people we serve are community teammates that continue to struggle with territorial dominance. If the two do not make the wise decision to partner up and power up, the community will continue to fail. There will not be any peace, unity, love, happiness, and most importantly, togetherness, until both sides realize we are on the same team and we just cannot police ourselves out of the problems. Once again, his appearance will take place on Sunday, August 26th at Ecclesia Christian Fellowship, 1314 East State Street at 10:30 in the morning. On agenda item number 19, I wish to express my thanks to Councilmember Kimberly Cowan for ensuring that the last north-south major arterial roadway being formed in San Bernardino is being done first class. Her efforts will make the residents of the city in general and the Tropical West Side in particular very proud. However, there exists one glaring omission in this agenda item. On August 21st, 2006, in resolution number 2006-298, State Street was renamed University Parkway from Highland Avenue to its proposed southerly extension, Foothill Boulevard. Nowhere in this agenda item is University Parkway even identified as a street being created. I propose, as this agenda item is passed, that a caveat be added to include that going forward, the street will be referred to as University Parkway, with formerly known as State Street in parentheses. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next speakers are Bishop Charles, Tyler Durden, James Albert, Terry Boykins, Paige Miller, and Keith Carson.
Please state your name.
Good evening. My name is Charles Bishop, and the reason that I'm here is because I have a complaint about my RV. I've been living in San Bernardino for at least 12 years or better, and I've owned one, and this is the first time that I've had a complaint, and I just need to find out who I talk to get it straightened out. I do have pictures of where I have it parked, and I just need some help to find out what I need to do next.
Okay, thank you. I believe staff is going to approach you to get your information. Thank you so much. Next speaker, please state your name.
My name is Keith Carson. I am a tenant at 340 West 4th Street and have been for 2.5 years now. And I am currently concerned about everything going on with the building and what's going to happen tomorrow. I'm very concerned with, because it leaves me and many others with no options, meaning that we're going to be forced to the streets, and it's a scary situation. Just seeing everybody else, my neighbors, my friends, and my loved ones, just very worried, anxious. We're tired. We're sad. We're worried, and we have nowhere to go, and there's limited resources that aren't even really helping at all, and we want to have more time to be able to get ourselves together and to be able to find other alternatives. And I'm kind of lost in this whole situation, and I'm trying to speak for everyone that I am connected with within the building, and we just want to ask for an extension so that we can get ourselves together, because it's a very scary situation. I have no family that I can turn to. I'm sure there's others that don't have any family that they can turn to, and we're really, really worried. We're scared, and we realize that the building is not a very good element, and the place is, you know, what it is right now. But there are good people within this building, and we're being turned to the streets. It's just it's wrong, and we're all worried. So I'm, you know, that's all I really have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. City Manager, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I do. I want to respond to the gentleman as well as anyone else here who is involved in the building there. One thing is over the last several days, we've had a number of county social service agencies there, along with the city, to make connection with residents who are affected, who are looking for resources to help relocate. So if the gentleman can give his name and where we can contact him, we'd be happy to help connect him with some of the county social services to see what kind of assistance can be provided.
Thank you. Will you have staff approach
Yes,
them?
staff will.
Thank you. And it is actually, I'm going to announce it's 8 p.m. We are now going into public hearing, and then so we'll pause public comment at this time. We do have one public hearing. Public hearing item number 26, proposed substantial amendment to fiscal year 2020 to 2021 annual action plan associated with Community Development Block Grant Coronavirus Relief Funds. I'm opening the public hearing at 8:00 p.m. Could city staff provide presentation on this item?
Good evening, Mayor and council members. So the item before you is regarding the proposed substantial amendment to fiscal year 2020-2021 in regards to the annual action plan associated with Community Development Block Grant Coronavirus Relief Funds, also known as CDBG-CV. And what this boils down to is we're looking to reallocate unspent or underutilized CDBG-CV funds for round 1 and round 3. And specifically, the federal government, namely HUD, Housing, Urban, and Development, has made it clear that they intend to claw back any unused CDBG-CV funds. So it's imperative that we go ahead and reallocate these dollars. Back in March 21st, 2020, the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act, also known as the CARES Act, had allocated $2,003,529 to the city of San Bernardino, specifically to prevent, prepare, and respond to the coronavirus pandemic. And on April 19, 2020, the following activities were approved and funding was allocated under CDBG CV1. Specifically, there was an eviction prevention program in which $1,060,000 was allocated to the Housing Authority, and that was specifically for San Bernardino residents who had financial hardship due to the coronavirus pandemic. In Parks and Rec, we had allocated $150,000 to the Senior Nutrition Program. And then for public facilities, specifically modifying public facilities with PPE equipment and touchless door opening entries, things of that nature, we allocated $336,823. So the total allocation in CDBG CV Round 1 funds was $2,003,529, the full amount. Then in September, actually September 11, 2020, the city received another round of CDBG CV3 funds in the amount of $1,702,135. In June of 2021, the following activities were approved with the CDBG CV3. Specifically, it was for 5th Street Senior Center, in which case the installation of a shade structure to allow the Senior Nutrition Program to move outdoors during the epidemic, or the pandemic, excuse me, in the amount of $175,000. Encanto Community Center for building improvements, namely the lobby and, again, having that touchless door entry. Community centers and libraries, there were various locations, again, for touchless entries in the amount of $815,000. So altogether, the amount that we had allocated was $1,702,135. The problem is that for the 2020-2021 allocations of CDBG, CV1 and 3, the city has not fully spent these dollars. Specifically, when it comes to our eviction prevention, the Housing Authority, which has extensive experience in utilizing funds to provide eviction prevention, it was not able to fully expend the funds. It actually only spent $720,000. And part of the reason is because the state had terminated the COVID-19 state of emergency. And in order to use the funds, a person had to be able to show their financial hardship due to the pandemic, and that just became really impossible once the state emergency had ended. So as a result, there is literally $340,000 left unspent. Also, for the senior nutrition program, we have not spent $9,746. For the PPE cleaning supplies, we have not spent $17,476. We barely touched our administrative funds for both the CDBG CV1 and CDBG CV3. And when you combine these totals, we have underutilized $1,145,201 in our CV1 and CV3. Again, if we do not spend these funds, they will be clawed back. Instead, what staff is asking is if we can reallocate these funds to the interim shelter for homeless assistance. If the council has not received a memo, there will be one coming soon to give you an up-to-date explanation in terms of what's going on with the interim shelter and why the city had to shift gears to make sure that we meet that threshold. Because we were looking at utilizing a lot of dollars and we were not going to be able to reach the number of beds. I know I'm sidetracking, but basically these funds will help offset the expenses to operate the interim shelter. Again, the total amount is $1,145,201, and even though we have not fully expended, HUD would be satisfied knowing that the city has council's approval to reallocate said funds, and that will at least protect the funding so that we can use it as necessary. And I'm available for any questions.
Thank you. Do we have any members of the public who have submitted a request to speak? Do any members of the public wish to speak on this item?
We have not.
None? Okay, thank you. I'm now closing the public hearing at 8:06 p.m. for deliberation action. Do we have a motion?
I have questions.
Okay. Councilmember Sanchez?
So how much are we clawing back from the designated programs?
So in total, specifically for eviction prevention, it's $340,000 remaining that Housing Authority just could not utilize.
Okay, 300.
340,000. For the senior nutrition program, there was $9,746.
9,000?
$9,746. For the PPE cleaning supplies, there was another $17,476. For CDBG CV1 administrative funds, $400,706 were not used. And I'm assuming this is probably due to the fact that there really was no staffing in housing. I think for at least a year there was no housing, so they couldn't spend it. And then in terms of CDBG CV3, there's $336,209 unspent administrative funds.
So is this like CDBG general fund, or is this encumbered to any particular type of line item?
This is specifically for CV, meaning coronavirus. So we have our standard community development block grant that we always get.
So that 700, that last number, we can only use that for housing reallocate, or housing, tell me what it's for.
We can use it to still prepare, prevent, and respond to coronavirus. So we have to be particular in how we use these funds. It has to still be tied in to the coronavirus. How are you going to prevent it? How are you going to reduce it? How are you going to respond to it?
Is there kind of an action plan that you're going to bring before the council or something? Because as you mentioned, May of this year, the pandemic was declared over.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to come with some sort of action plan. Otherwise, we lose that 700,000.
So this is a substantial amendment to the annual action plan that was already approved. So by right, the city can say, you know what, we're going to shift gears. We know we haven't spent the money.
Yeah.
We're going to allocate it to ABC. And that's fine as long as ABC still responds, prepares, or prevents the spread of coronavirus. And that's what we're doing by allocating it to address the need for interim shelter. That's still within the city's right to do so.
So we're using the CV3 money for that. Are we using the others you mentioned? The other amounts, the CDBG general fund money?
No.
Is that also going to be used here? Or
We're not
what is that going to
touching-
be used for?
We're not touching the CDBG CV funds. Excuse me, I know this is confusing me. We're not touching our standard CDBG funds. That's, the sub-recipients are going to receive the funds, that's still the same. This is only related to the coronavirus funds.
No, so that was for the CV3, right?
And one and three.
1 and 3?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, so all those numbers you mentioned are for
Right.
CV1 and CV,
Yes, yes,
okay.
yes.
Okay, all right,
Sorry.
that clarifies.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilwoman Calvin?
Thank you, Ms. Searcy, for that presentation. I appreciate that. So with COVID numbers on the rise, because they definitely are rising, just this past week alone, I know 5 people that have contracted COVID.
Yeah.
So with those funds, prevention, preparation, is the city creating a strategic plan in the event that we find ourselves in a situation to where we would need those funds or programs or something to be able to assist us in our being able to get through that period? So are we able to create something that where we can still utilize those funds in preparation? And because those numbers, I know the pandemic has been deemed to be over, but the numbers are rising.
So here's the situation. Because these funds have been sitting since 2020 and 2021, we are at imminent risk of having them claw back, where you don't have the luxury of time to say, well, let's say the coronavirus continues to spread and the pandemic gets worse, and we're going to use it to do A, B, C, D. We need to be able to say, you know what, we're going to, within the next 6 months, utilize these funds for however we say we're going to utilize it. If we were to try to, let's say, come up with a plan, so if people are testing positive for coronavirus and they can't go home and we need to put them somewhere else and work with the hospitals or work with some agencies. I'm not saying it's not possible, but it's going to take time to kind of be very thorough in that type of plan. In the meantime, while we're putting that out there, HUD has already sent notification specifically to this city. At any moment, if you guys do not approve or reallocate these funds, we can claw it back. No notice. That letter was the notice. And so due to the lateness of time, it's like, well, we're already moving forward with trying to assist the homeless community. Let's add that because it still falls under the CV guidelines. Otherwise, I do exactly agree with what you're saying. It's just that we do not have that luxury of time. Yeah.
I understand. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councilwoman Ibarra?
Yes, thank you. I would like to see if we can use some of that money still for people who are affected by the COVID pandemic. I know we had some gentlemen speak that were at 340 West 4th Street. I know our staff has been actively out on that side for over a year already, trying to find, rehouse some of the members, and they're not sure why the gentlemen who are here have not been, relocated somewhere else. Maybe try to touch base with them, and if we can use some of that money to help them.
So again, to be clear, the money has to be tied into the coronavirus pandemic. And so as I mentioned, we had allocated $1,060,000 to the Housing Authority for that specific purpose. We don't have the luxury of time for someone to say, let's say, contract coronavirus, lose their job, or fall under some type of financial hardship because they have contracted COVID-19, and then be able to come to us and say, well, city, can we apply for these funds? We just don't have the luxury of time for that. And as a result, that's why the Housing Authority said, we don't want to hold on to this any longer because you guys are at risk of losing it. So take it back and reallocate it. But I do understand what you're saying. We just don't have that time.
So when did the Housing Authority tell us that they couldn't use that funding? Was it back in 2020, 21?
No, they specifically told us this, well, I'm saying specifically, but probably about 2 months ago, 3 months ago, they came to the determination that they were just not going to be able to move forward and spend the final remaining amount, which was like $340,000. But they did spend $770 specifically for San Bernardino City residents who did fall under that coronavirus guideline.
Okay, because I know Housing Authority was allocated the first round, and then it went to United Way. So
Two separate
separate
programs.
rounds.
Two separate programs.
Okay.
That's the ERAP program. This is the eviction prevention program. Yeah, two separate programs.
Two different ones.
Any further comments from my other colleagues? If not, can I have a motion?
Mayor Tran,
Yes.
Councilmember Alexander.
Oh, Councilmember Alexander.
Thank you, Mayor. One quick, actually two. I see you said you had a little over $9,000 for senior nutrition. Why can't that still be appropriated for senior nutrition? And question number two is also the $17,000 for PPE, cleaning supplies. That can still be used around the city at its various parks and recs, community centers, and also be used as funding there if there's a rise in the coronavirus, instead of reallocating those funds.
And I do understand what you're saying, Councilmember. Specifically with the senior center, it was going towards, let me make sure I'm saying this right, the installation of a shade structure to support senior meal programs outdoors in an open air and concrete pathway work. It doesn't mean that the money couldn't be reallocated to something else. It just means that at that particular time when we used the CDBG CV funds to address, prepare, prevent, coronavirus, it was specifically to help with this structure. So when you're dealing with HUD funds, you can't say, oh, I changed my mind and I'm not going to do it for this. I'm going to use it for that instead. You have to go back and do the substantial amendment, get HUD approval. It's a process involved. So it wasn't necessarily taking meals. It was for the shade structure. Yeah. For the PPE.
Thank you. I appreciate that. But as far as the PPE, our police department, our senior centers, I can still see some of those funds still going back there to help protect our senior citizens and help our police department and our code enforcement. Those, in fact, even those, anybody that deals with the public. I mean, I can see some of those funds still going there. They're not allocating all those funds toward what you have proposed.
Yeah. So to be clear, these are discussions that we had internally with Public Works, who was taking the lead in regards to addressing park issues and addressing public facilities. And so within the internal conversations we had with Public Works and asking if they were going to be able to utilize these funds, the conclusion was either we are good on the PPE or there was no need to pursue this any further, but that's the feedback we received from Public Works, and as a result, it's like, well, you know what, let's reallocate these funds before we lose them. So we're not just making a conscious decision on our own internal, as a housing division. We actually have reached out to the divisions that were in charge of these funds from back in 2020 and 2021 to say, are you going to be able to spend this, or do we need to look elsewhere to reallocate? And if Daniel Hernandez is here, and I don't think he is.
You said cleaning supplies, so I'm figuring that you're cleaning, that they are, or Parks and Rec are cleaning the various apparatus in the parks.
I'm sorry, if I said cleaning, forgive me, I should have said PPE funds. So specifically, my mind went blank, protection, personal protection equipment.
Personal protection equipment.
Right, yes.
Right.
Yes, not cleaning supplies. So we had these discussions with Public Works, yes.
Okay, I'm good. Thank you. Merry Christmas.
Thank you. Councilwoman Ibarra?
Yes, one more question. I know you had mentioned interim shelter. That's not the navigation center. That's something.
Right, exactly. That's, yeah.
And I'm not finding information on what that entails. Can you tell us about it?
I'm probably sidetracking here. So initially, we were looking at a motel to do an interim shelter because we are definitely moving forward with developing a permanent facility. But in the meantime, you need a place to put people. And we also want to get to the place where we can reestablish our anti-camping enforcement, right? But the motel units are not going to be enough for what we will be paying. The motel owner had reduced the number of units available to us. So we'll bring you guys up to speed, but the city right now is investigating city-owned property that would accommodate modular structures where an agency could bring them in, set them up, fully equipped to provide the beds, the administrative offices, the restrooms, the laundry facilities, showers, ADA ramps, everything that we would need on city-owned land, and we can use that while we're still building a permanent structure. So that's what I'm referring to as something interim, something temporary right now.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have a motion?
Motion to
Mayor
approve.
Mayor Pro Tem Charette, this is to move forward with the allocation of funds for the interim emergency shelter. Is that correct?
The substantial amendment to the CDBG funding.
Yeah. So I did hear a motion from Mayor Pro Tem Charette and seconded by Councilwoman Calvin. Call for the
Councilmember
vote.
Sanchez,
Yes.
Councilmember Ibarra,
Yes.
Councilmember Figueroa,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem, Councilmember Calvin,
Yes.
Councilmember Alexander.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. We are now going back to public comments. Madam City Clerk, can you call the names again?
Tyler Durden, James Albert, Terry Boykins, Paige Miller, Robert Porter.
Please state your name.
Hi, Tyler Durden. Hi, Mayor. Promise I won't be yelling tonight. Just to check in, first and foremost, I'd like to talk to the victims, survivors, Annans, and people of Maui, and anybody else that can hear me. Hey, if your plan consists of the government or the police helping you, or even doing their job, you've got no plan. If they do help you, consider yourself fortunate. I was going to come in here and talk about my experience with Officer Bo Brady down there at headquarters, police headquarters, but I've posted enough about that on Twitter, so we'll just move on for now. Maybe I'll come back in 2 weeks and talk about that. That was crazy. Yeah, it's weird when cops, it's weird when the cops talk to you and they start putting their hand on their gun. It is like a weird experience. I'm sure some of you have been there. I'm sure some of you know that move, right? You're in there just reporting a crime, and because it's against a friend, they do what? Close that gap, right? Then they lower that profile, right? And then they put that left hand on their hip and that right hand on their gun. I'm just trying to report a crime. But I bet you dollars to donuts that those guys are friends. And I haven't heard anything from San Bernardino. Nothing. Not a word. And so anyways, I don't know how much time I got, a minute. I blew this speech. I had a whole sanctimonious diatribe that I was going to give tonight, and I wasn't even going to talk about this. But you guys are crazy. I'll tell you this. Fuck, I wasn't going to talk about this. I have absolutely no intention of leaving my kids fatherless, just as I did that morning. I had no intention of dying that morning. And I thank God that he didn't pull that weapon. I really do, because I don't know how that would have ended up. I know how the police would have wanted it or hoped it would have ended up. Me dead. But if you all think I'm going to give up, if you think you're going to continue to harbor and protect pedophiles, perverts, yeah, I see that grin on your face. You're wrong. You're all wrong.
Thank you. Next speaker, please state your name.
Terry Boykins, Executive Director of Project Fighting Chance. Mayor, City Council, I just wanted to give you a shout out of acknowledgement and thanks for the success that Project Fighting Chance had this summer at the Ruben Campos Community Center, Nunez Park. We had to make some really tough decisions with regards to how we were going to support the community. One of which was able to help support the youth on the west side with a number of programs. Youth that were, after summer school, needed a place to go because the CAPS program, summer school had ended. And so we opted to forego our boxing program this summer, which a lot of young at-risk males were looking forward to. But we did also need to support the West Side, and we did that. As a result, we were able to provide to the community services fully staffed from 7:30 in the morning to 6 p.m. at night. And that was with a host of programs ranging from STEM to boxing fitness to yoga, music, what have you. I share that because of the support and the coordination. If I had the opportunity to work with Liddy Gutfield and Parks and Rec, which we've done a number of things that have been really beneficial to working with this community on the west side at Rubin Campos. And what I like to do, in addition to the support that the CAPS, Extended Learning, San Bernardino City Unified School District, I like to really look at next year what resources may be available for high at-risk individuals that may have wanted to participate in our boxing program off the streets. We had limited resources, but I think that if we can do something to get them in a program, particularly with the spring, and have them come in for our fitness program, our boxing program, our mentoring program, our intervention program, both for the spring of 2024 and in the summer of 2024, that would be pretty exciting because of what's happening in terms of us being able to build up for the 2024 Olympics, which we actually have a contender. Terrible Terry, as many of you will know him. CBS News, KCAL 9 will be out to Project Fighting Chance for Rubin Campos tomorrow, talking to us about our plans, not only just as far as what's going to happen in Paris, but what's happening in San Bernardino. And they're very interested in how programs like Parks and Recreation are factoring into the community on this widespread. So I do wish that we can have an opportunity to talk about what resources could be available to put on that kind of an effort in the spring of 2024 as well as the summer of 2024 as we go into the Olympics. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please state your name.
Hello, City Council, Mayor, staff. Speaking on item 17, the award design services agreement for Sierra Way Storm Drain Project, also a 7th Ward resident myself. So anyone who's lived in San Bernardino long enough knows that this project is long overdue and very welcome in terms of the historic flooding that currently exists on Sierra Way. No issues with that. What I do have issues with is the city staff report that recommends planning to permit with our county's flood control district, which historically has meant that any stormwater runoff that happens is diverted, with most of it ending up in the Pacific Ocean and not in our communities that we can use, capture and reuse for later use. I do want to point you to an ABC 7 news report that came out in early April of this year, where our congressman and the San Bernardino Valley Municipal Water District was able to secure over $2.5 million to our communities to help upgrade our underground water storage infrastructure. And if we follow the staff's report in this discussion, I feel like we're going to keep doing the same old, and wasting and flushing water literally down a drain that we can't capture for reuse. So I'm asking you all to pull this item from the consent calendar for discussion and hopefully make the right decision. But I do want to be very clear that a storm drain project is very welcome, but permitting with the County Flood Control District is a wasted opportunity and something that we need to really look at and reconsider. Thank you so much for your time. And
Thank you. Next speaker, please state your name.
My name is Robert Porter, lifelong San Bernardinian. Mayor, council, good people. I'd like today to, let me change my hat. All right. Commissioner Porter for the Arts and Historical Preservation Commission. We have a new grant with the Visual and Performing Arts Grant. If you'd like to apply for it, go to Parks and Rec page on our San Bernardino website, and you can apply for these grants through September 15th. And these ones, should be good. So get free money, team. If you're an artist and you want free money, go for it, right? And then it will, they'll put their proposals in, and it will come back to us, and we'll choose who gets the grants. So, check it out. All right. change my hat. All right, now I'm back to Robert Porter. 4th Street, we really need to fix this if we can, team. Really, I feel bad for these humans. They've not really been helped quite as much as they really need. So we need to figure out a way to help Wolf and his team find a place to live. I mean, it's no good putting them right back on the streets, right? I mean, that's exactly the opposite of what we're trying to do, right? So we got to figure out a place for them to stay, team. I'd also like to mention that we definitely need more code enforcement officers. I know that's in the works. We need to pay them better as well, because we want to retain good code enforcement for a long time. And with code enforcement, we can actually even possibly get some money back. So we should invest in code enforcement and get some of these buildings and these businesses to clean up in front of their areas, make sure they have good landscaping, and let them not treat San Bernardino like trash, right? They really need to step it up. A lot of the businesses do here in San Bernardino. And the last thing I'd like to mention is the rainbow over downtown San Bernardino. Did you guys see that the other day? It was incredible. There was this huge rainbow right over downtown San Bernardino and our old city hall. So I was taking it as a sign that maybe it's time to bring back this old city hall and get it rolling again, team. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker, please state your name.
Good evening. Paige Miller. Thank you, Chief Goodman and the police department. We support all your efforts to make San Bernardino a safe community. Chief Goodman is accessible, knowledgeable, and is motivating both officers and community. To the viewing public, you need to let your voice be heard against Senate Bill 50. Senator Stephen Bradford's bill would prohibit police from pulling someone over for a minor infraction. So folks, if you want that fentanyl that ends up in San Bernardino and the guns off the street, you cannot support this bill. Everyone knows traffic stops lead to these major arrests. Council, like to see you come out united against SB 50. Let's support the chief. Thank you also to code enforcement, working to alleviate blight and encourage respect for community members and businesses. Keep up the good work. Regarding animal services, we truly need a mobile spay-neuter van up and running out every day in the community. Council members, please, thank you. Please remind your constituents to spay and neuter their pets. I gotta tell you, in the past 6 months, it is disgraceful how many constituents have literally dumped their large dogs off in the wash and the parks, sometimes 2 and 3 at a time. We can do better. The city also just declared months ago a state of emergency on homelessness. Therefore, the public needs, we need an update every meeting on the status of this issue. We want the nonprofits you have vetted to be listed on the city's website, and a countdown, a date and a countdown to the opening of that resource navigation center for homeless who need it. Now, regarding the ACLU's chronic threats and bullying tactics against this city and our law enforcement, enough. Enough with the paid attorneys and lobbyists. No more secret agreements with the ACLU behind closed doors. City leadership needs to consider a counter class action lawsuit against the ACLU on behalf of your constituents, including the protected classes, the seniors, the disabled, the children and young scholars whose safety and well-being have been assaulted in this city for years. And let's also include that homeless, half-clothed woman lying on a bus bench tonight who will no doubt be assaulted. Stand up for her too. People are tired. This community is tired of being physically assaulted, stepping over needles and human waste, putting out arson fires. Just look at Highland Avenue. And having pets stolen to be bred for money. So let's stop enabling, stop coddling the bad behavior. This foolishness needs to stop. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam City Clerk.
Next speakers are John Schollenberger, Dolores Armstead, Treasurer Ortiz, Robert Sobrianis, Georgia Lacarezos, Leila Gamolka, Les, Gina Meireles, and Timothy Prince.
Thank you. Please state your name.
John Schollenberger, resident of San Bernardino, proud resident, 15 years. It has come to my attention and some within the community that there are politicians out there right now, special interest groups, and organizations that are trying to position or plant council people in the 5th, 6th, and 7th wards to run in this upcoming election. I'm going to tell you right now, we know who you are, we know the people involved, and my suggestion is to you is to just quit while you're ahead, okay? We know what's going on, and we will have free and fair elections in San Bernardino. This is our city. It's not a playground for the special interest to get their personal or financial agendas through. We're not going to have it. I've already heard that it's been addressed in the 6th Ward, and my advice to you is don't play games in the 6th Ward. Just don't do it. And in the 7th Ward, the country club circuit runs that ward over there, as far as I'm concerned. So I wouldn't mess with them either. My suggestion is if you want to play fair, we're not going to fall victim to another Branch Valdivian cult in this city up on that dais to do that personal agenda. Our council people are supposed to be here to serve the constituents in their ward and get things done. We're going to be keeping an eye on this in the city. We're not having this again. I love this city. I've been connected to it since 1971 when I was 4 years old when I first moved here. I've come to this city to shop with my parents when I was a kid. I have a lot of fond memories of this city. And I had been looking for years to buy a home here. And I finally bought a home in 2008 in the North End. I've been a community servant and advocate for my community, and I love being here. I was pretty much jobless for 2 years, almost 3, and it took every dime I had to hold on to my house and just to stay here and be among some of the best people I've ever met. I care a lot about the city, and I've met some of the nicest people you'll ever want to meet in San Bernardino. But don't play games with, I'll tell you what my brother told me when I was a kid. If you go to San Bernardino looking for trouble, you'll find it. Don't mess with the citizens of this city. They're very kind and caring, but if you mess with them, you get what you ask for. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please state your name.
Georgia Licarezos. Good evening, Honorable Mayor, council members, and fellow members of the community. How can I communicate this crisis to you in order to leave a lasting impression? Do I need to resort to showing you distressing images of mistreated animals pleading for us to save them, or the awful conditions of them cramped in cages? What is it going to take for my council to listen to my words? Have any of you gone to the city shelter recently? If you haven't, why haven't you gone? I'm pleading with you to go and look into the eyes of these poor souls waiting to die, because what you will see is their suffering and misery. You may wonder, what is the biggest contributor to the overpopulation of animals? And I will tell you, the #1 reason is backyard breeding. These people are continuously selling litters of puppies on all social media platforms like Craigslist, Nextdoor, OfferUp, and Facebook in the city of San Bernardino, where it is illegal, by the way. There is no one stopping them, and there are no consequences. What's worse is that it is our very own citizens who are the ones driving this black market, which has now taken over after the puppy mills have banned. And even an ordinance mandating spay and neutering of all animals over 4 months of age in our city. The city's inaction is killing these animals. Why even bother enacting an ordinance that you won't enforce? For every puppy sold, these people are condemning an adoptable animal in our shelter to death merely for space. How can anyone justify prioritizing the ownership of a puppy over the killing of another animal? And what is truly shocking is that the statistics show that more of these babies are being killed than adult animals. Furthermore, how is it possible that we don't have enough food for all these animals at the shelter? Where are the funds going that are delegated for our city shelter? Because this past Saturday, there was a plea for cat food by the volunteers and that they didn't have enough food for Sunday. If we cannot afford to feed our shelter animals, how can you assure the public that the animals there are getting adequate medical care when so many come into the shelter in poor condition? Finally, I'm still waiting to see a meeting for the Animal Control Commission on the calendar. If this is because we are failing to reach a quorum every month, then get these seats filled with people committed to making a difference in this crisis. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please state your name.
Dolores Armstead. Tonight I have basically some observations and comments. First, I want to thank you, Mr. McNeely. Thank you for trying to keep the board items to a more manageable number. It is very appreciated. We know the city is looking for a city manager because you're on the interim, but I pray that it is someone with the intelligence, the ethics, and the dedication you have. We really hope we can have someone that's similar to you to help get this city straight. You're doing a great job to clean this city. It's a big job, and we appreciate it. Thank you. The question on Oxbow. What is going on with Oxbow? You know, the Santa Anas are getting ready to hit us, then the rains. Has anything taken place about the Oxbow? Because we haven't gotten an update. Has it been taken care of? I'm sure all of us on the north end would like to know what is the status. Is anything being done? Or is we going to have another year of the Santa Anas blowing all that debris and affecting our lives? Please, it affects the whole city. Please, can you update us on Oxbow, what is going on there? Then I have another one. In April, one of the items was going to be a future board item requiring developers to maintain their properties in a nuisance-free condition. It was introduced by Councilmember Figueroa. What's the status on that one? Maybe I missed it, but it would be a good one to proceed with. We have these developers, and they're not doing their job to take care of the property, so we just want to know what's the status of that. On item 17, I agree with the other gentleman. We're going to divert a lot of water into the ocean. Why? We need the water. The droughts are going to come back. It's not going to go away, so we need to find a way to capture that and capture it. So it's not wasted. The droughts are coming back, people. So we need to address that. And pretty much that's all I have today. Oh, I got one more. When will the General Plan Commission meet again? We keep seeing it on calendar, but nothing's there. So I think it's something that we need to get on board with. Very interested to see where the city is going. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please state your name.
Treasurer Ortiz. Oh, sorry. Council, a little over a year ago, the city entered into an illegal agreement with the ACLU regarding police action towards the homeless. In October of last year, you all co-signed on this illegal action and secretly kept it from the community for over 6 months. But as all secrets in this city, it came out and it was made public. And now here we are again. Conveniently, the ACLU has now filed lawsuits again against our city for the handling of homelessness and pushing them out of the parks. No more. You cannot keep this city on its knees to the ACLU. What about the rights and civil liberties of the 220,000 other residents in this community who are doing it right, who are making sure that they contribute to making our community better? Enough is enough. You want to talk about pride in our neighborhoods? How about giving people parks that they can play in with their children? How about paving our streets? How about making sure that the mentally ill are in facilities for the correct treatment, that people who are violent towards our residents are reprimanded, put into jail? We cannot keep letting the minority of people overrule the lives of the majority anymore, and that is what the city has done to us. I appreciate what people go out and fight for, but you have to start fighting for us, not for special interest groups. And that leads us into, what are you guys doing with Sacramento? Everybody keeps telling the residents that we need to reach out to Sacramento and do this. You all are endorsed by them. You meet with them. You sit in conferences next to the same people that are creating the most horrendous laws that make criminals have a party for breaking the law and puts regular citizens in fear in their homes. Why are you not doing your due diligence? What they pass comes here and affects us the day after. I stand with the chief of police and everything that he's doing. Where do you guys stand? You'll take the money and the endorsements, but will you take the time to stand up for what is right? In looking at everything we do, you guys try to put pet projects. Just focus on the priorities. Focus on the things and the needs that are important to this community. Homelessness, economic development, housing, education. Stop with all the other nonsense. If you really want to look at a big revenue driver for the city, why don't you go reevaluate the contract between us and County Fire? Why don't you find out our true cost of service versus the hundreds of millions of dollars we're actually giving them in property tax in perpetuity? There are real issues that need real solutions. You just have to make that what you focus on, not all the other fluffy stuff that really doesn't establish or continue to do anything for us. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please state your name.
Yes, my name is Robert Sopranis. I want to say thank you for everyone for coming here today. I'm a resident on 4th Street. I'm not homeless. I made a choice to come down here. I want to see how I'd be homeless. All of us don't know how it is in that building. Well, I can tell you exactly how it is. It's not good, but it's very bad. But it's bad for those who think it's bad. If you don't know, come down and look at it. Don't make an opinion about something you don't know about. Members, you guys have the power because we put you guys in here. I know upgrading is always good, but for who? Yourself or the people? I'm going to say this and then I'm going to leave. This building should have been closed a long time ago, 2017, and here we are, 2023. Now you guys finally decide to go ahead and shut it down. At what expense? There's kids and women in this building that have nowhere to go now. Is money really important, or is it lives that's more important? Take a long look at yourselves, a good look at yourselves, not the people, because they wanted to put you guys here. You guys are dead wrong about this building being here this long. People lost their lives in here, and I'm a witness to that. I'm the same person that run these streets. Wouldn't look like that way, huh? But I'm letting you know now, most of you guys don't belong there. Have a good night.
Thank you. Next speaker, please state your name.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Layla Gamolka, and I'm the president of the North Park Neighborhood Association. I'm here in cooperation with the Wildwood Park Neighborhood Association. 2 years ago, our two neighborhood associations partnered with Music Changing Lives, the San Bernardino Rotary Club, the SVPD, Councilman Fred Charette, and the Explorers to clean up Electric Avenue from 40th Street to North Park Boulevard. It was a huge success with many community members coming out to help. The area looked, if not exactly pretty, at least clean and presentable. We filled a 40-yard dumpster to the brim. I truly believed that after so many citizens had worked so hard to do something that we actually paid taxes for the city to do, that the city would, at a minimum, keep it clean and maybe even invest some money into making it into something that the community could be proud of. As it turns out, I was supremely naive. Within 3 months, it looked exactly as it did before our cleanup and has looked pretty much the same ever since. To call it a disgrace is to be generous. It looks as if you're driving down the street in a third world country. Because it is so neglected, people routinely dump things like trash, furniture, and tires there. I would like to gratefully acknowledge Ernesto Salinas from the Public Work Department. He has recently had his crew come out and clear out the weeds in the trash between 40th and 46th, and I'm really grateful. It looks a lot better, but this is just temporary. The weeds and trash will be back within a matter of weeks unless it's put on a regular maintenance schedule. But I think we can do even better than that. It can be a beautiful trail similar to what is on Mountain View below 40th. I implore you to consider including this in your capital improvement plan. I would further request that you consider holding a CIP workshop so that you can hear from the community about what is actually important to them. Both the North Park Neighborhood Association and the Wildwood Park Neighborhood Association would love to collaborate with the Parks Department and 4th Ward Councilman Fred Charette to develop something along Electric Avenue that we could all be proud of. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please state your name.
Les. So this is the number to the landlord that on 4th Street, 626-616-5665. That's the landlord, Mr. Lee. He owns that building, the slum landlord that everyone's talking about. He's actually in your ward, Theodore Sanchez. I would love for you guys, Theodore Sanchez, city manager, and the city attorney, I would love for you guys to come down and hand out hotel vouchers to these people. You guys referring them to other people, it's not gonna help. Hand them a hotel voucher, let them spend a night in a hotel, then while they at the hotel, then give them some resources. Because the police is coming in there and they're gonna physically move them up out of there. So what are you guys gonna do? It seems like you guys don't have no plans. It seems like you guys wing everything. I don't hear no plans in anything. It's a shame that we are allowing slum landlords to take over San Bernardino. You can drive through San Bernardino in about 5-10 minutes. You can see all these buildings. When are you guys actually gonna hold these landlords accountable? You guys are allowing this landlord you guys are basically, they're saying that the city is gonna clean up the landlord's mess, and the landlord is he doesn't have to put any money towards cleaning it up. And he should be the one cleaning it up with his own money. The taxpayer shouldn't have to spend money to clean up his mess. Come to find out, it was a newborn baby right there by the garbage can. They shot up the building. People are overdosing inside the building. You know, it seemed like they're trying to blame all the tenants for everything, but let's just be honest. It probably is some of the tenants, but at the same time, it's the landlord's property. So the landlord should be over there checking on his property or having managers to check on his property, but he's not. And then come to find out, he's still charging people rent, $700 to sleep in the hallway, and the building smells like straight feces, piss, everything. So my thing is, Theodore Sanchez, what you gonna do? This is your ward. You should be doing something, man. I don't see you. You wasn't out there today. You wasn't out there the day before. You're not doing anything. I heard that you went inside the building and threw up once you left. That's the only thing that you probably did. But besides that, you're not doing anything, man. So that's my time. I don't want to talk you guys' ears off, but please give these people a hotel vouchers. All this money that we just had coming in and the taxpayers are paying, give them a $100 hotel voucher, $200 hotel voucher, something. Just don't have these people on the streets.
Thank you. Next speaker, please state your name. Can you turn on your mic, please?
Good evening. My name is Gina Mireles. I'm the founder and president of Mexican American Mothers Advocating for Students. Today I'm here as a mother. The happiest day of my life was a day that I gave birth to my 35-year-old son. It's sad that men don't have the opportunity to procreate, to feel that little butterfly when you're about 6 months or 6 weeks. I'm also a federally protected whistleblower. I spent 10 years with the Etiwanda School District, and I documented the professional misconduct of Sean Judson administration. I spent 5 years under Sharon Cole, 5 years under Janella Myricks. On the day that Sean Judson placed me on paid administrative leave, there was a suicide attempt. I'll always remember that young man walking out. Consequently, I moved to San Bernardino, and I was given the privilege to teach for San Bernardino City Unified School District. Because I'm outspoken and speaking for the rights of children, I'm currently restrained from attending any school board meeting. Dr. Funches is abusing of his position and has restrained me. Sean Judson did not restrain me. Superintendent Sean Judson just placed me on paid administrative leave and told me that I had to stay home Monday through Friday from 7:30 to 4. Having neither the right nor the authority to restrain me, I took a paid vacation to Mexico where our niece was married. Right today, I'm here because I need to have a community meeting, and I need this facility because children, everybody claims to put children first, but children don't vote. So there's no politician that's going to put something, that's going to write an assembly bill or put something in a ballot so that we can put cameras on teachers the way we put on law enforcement. You want to get rid of bullying in the classroom? You want to make sure that lazy teacher isn't sitting on her ass not doing anything? Put a camera on them. As a parent, we have the right to go into any classroom. With current technology, we can put cameras on our teachers so that we know what's going on, and we will get rid of the bullying in the classroom, and we will provide a safer environment. So I need to know who I need to speak with, what I need to do to have a community meeting here, because San Bernardino City Unified is the third largest school district in the state with 50,000, almost 50,000 students, and those people care about their children. The fact that they're poor doesn't mean that their children should be bullied and not receive a quality education. Thank you, and please, who do I speak with?
Thank you. Next speaker, please state your name.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Tim Prince, lifelong resident of San Bernardino, and in my 33rd year of practicing law, soon I'm going to get it perfect. That was a joke. Unfortunately, what I'm here to talk about tonight is not a joke. Let me start with some comments made about the ACLU, not just from the speakers tonight, who I don't think intended to diminish that organization, but I've heard it from our police chief speaking to the community at a public meeting. The American Civil Liberties Union is not out to pursue popular political causes. They defend our rights under the Constitution, and if we didn't have such a valuable group defending our rights under the Constitution, this would not be the greatest nation on earth, because it's our Constitution that makes it such, in my humble opinion. And the ACLU does not need to be the scapegoat for people that don't follow procedures and don't have proper policies in place. They have every right to challenge them when they see fit. It's an adversary system. They're advocating a point of view, and they're defending our rights, the rights of all of us. Second of all, who here, which of you council members can tell me what the Urban Land Institute plan is for downtown San Bernardino? Please raise your hand. Nobody's raising their hand. There is no excuse for that. The Urban Land Institute plan for San Bernardino, Juan Figueroa, are you listening? Thank you. Brought experts from all over the nation to San Bernardino to give us the benefit of their experience and wisdom. It was an amazing project that had unprecedented level of input from the public, and then had expert input. They came up with a plan for a mixed-use development at where? The Carousel Mall. You all operate like you're charting a new course that we haven't thought of this before. It's all in probably the old City Hall on a series of shelves. It's invaluable information, priceless information that we don't have the time or resources to replicate. City Manager, would you please have one of your staff members make an executive summary, find the existing executive summary, distribute it to the City Council. I know you all mean well, but we can't keep reinventing the wheel. And Councilman Figueroa, I don't mean to pick on you, but I saw you stare into the distance for so many speakers. You're up here to serve all of us. Show some respect. That's my second topic, not just Juan Figueroa, and I don't mean to pick on him. This city's level of civility and unity is deplorable, and that's why the city is deplorable these days. Find some common ground, work together, practice unity and civility, and stop pursuing your own political agendas. The city is important and needs your full attention. Thank you very much, Mayor.
Thank you. Moving on to, are there any more speakers, Madam City Clerk?
There are none.
None, okay, thank you. Moving on to consent calendar, items 6 to 21. Do we have any polls by any
Mayor,
council members?
City manager report follows public comment.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. City manager report at this time. Thank you.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Council. This report will be brief, but there are a few interesting notes that we'd like to discuss. First, the County Board of Supervisors last week approved a new fire station to come to San Bernardino on Del Rosa Avenue. It will be twice the size of the existing one. Construction will be breaking ground in approximately 1 month and will take approximately 1 year to complete. So we're very excited about that. The San Bernardino Youth Civic Engagement Council, which is a partnership between the city and the school district, held its first meeting yesterday. The purpose of the Youth Council, which are made up of high school students from San Bernardino, will be to learn more about city government as well as meet with and shadow city staff and elected officials. Yesterday, the Youth Council members met and spent time with Mayor Tran, Councilmember Calvin, and City Manager McNeely. This has been a long time coming, and we're glad that they had their first meeting yesterday. Police cracked down on ghost guns. On August 4th, San Bernardino police officers served a search warrant involving a local gang member who was manufacturing ghost weapons using a 3D printer. After serving the search warrant on the residence, the officers found the convicted felon has been manufacturing numerous weapons on 7 3D printers. It was basically a little mini manufacturing location, which were being provided to gang members in the community. We're very pleased that SBPD was able to take care of this. The San Bernardino Symphony at the Roosevelt Bowl on September 9th. Parks and Recreation, with support of Hillwood, will be bringing Maestro Anthony Parthner and the San Bernardino Symphony to the Roosevelt Bowl at Paris Hill Park on Saturday, September 9th. With a theme of A Night to Remember, the 4th oldest symphony in California will be bringing the heavenly sounds of classical music to one of San Bernardino's most historic venues. There will also be an instrument petting zoo for kids to try out some of the instruments in the orchestra. Admission is complimentary thanks to the event sponsor Hillwood. Gates open at 5 with the concert running from 7 to 9:30. We hope you can all attend. A couple last quick ones. We mentioned last meeting about Clear the Shelters Month in August. We want to remind people that there's still a few weeks left to adopt a dog, cat, kitty, or puppy for only $25, which includes spay, neutering, vaccines, and microchipping. At the last meeting, I mentioned that among the animals that are at the animal shelter are several snakes and several tarantulas. Thanks to the last meeting, I was told that one of the tarantulas was adopted and found a new home, so that's wonderful news. But Clear the Shelters is in partnership with NBC4 and Telemundo 52. Yesterday was City Hall Selfie Day. I just thought it was an opportunity for people to take a selfie that worked at City Hall, but I guess the intent was to take a selfie of yourself in front of City Hall. You learn something new every day, but this was an opportunity also for some of the city staff to celebrate each other and the work they do by taking selfie of their teams. Here's a few photos from the event, and it was just a great little event to take a breath and enjoy the camaraderie of City Hall. And I learned a little secret this evening that our own Parks and Recreation Community Service Director, Liddy Gutfeld, on Friday was presented the Community Partner Award by Cal State San Bernardino for her work with Cal State for her work to help secure the NCAA Division II Regional Championships at Fiscalini Field this year, and to get the field in tip-top shape in time for the game. So way to go, Liddy. And with that, that is my report.
Thank you so much. Mr. City Manager, anything to add? Are you good? Okay. Now we can move on to consent calendar. We have items 6 to 21. Are there any polls from the council?
Question on 19?
19, question 19.
17?
17 by Councilmember Ibarra. Is that a poll, Councilmember, or is that a question?
Yes, a poll.
A poll, okay. Mayor Pro Tem Charette moved to balance.
I believe
Oh, I'm sorry,
Councilmember-
Councilmember Alexander?
No, 17 was my poll as well.
Okay. So the question for, what was the number, Councilmember? 19, and a poll for 17 by 2 council members. And there's a motion to move the balance. Is there a second? Councilmember Ibarra, second.
Councilmember Sanchez?
Yes.
Councilmember Ibarra?
Yes.
Councilmember Figueroa?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes.
Councilmember Calvin?
Yes.
And Councilmember Alexander?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. We'll start with item number 17. And that is the award design services agreement for Sierra Way Storm Drain. Do we have a staff member? Thank you. And now it's pulled by Councilmember Ibarra and Councilmember Alexander.
Yep, I was just going to recommend if we can bring it back at a later date so that our staff can look into the comments that Mr. James offered earlier. I think it's a great idea if we can keep our local water within our local jurisdiction and not send it out to the Pacific Ocean, if that's something that we can look into.
Yeah, if I can explain that, the storm drain system is that this proposed storm drain, when it's constructed, is going to connect to a county storm drain system, which will be discharged to a detention basin that's operated by the county. So that is a regional detention basin. It's actually going to be infiltrating into the groundwater basin. So it serves exactly the purpose that was commented about, by the public.
So
this
it's going to the
doesn't-
county
yeah.
and not to the local water.
Well, this
agencies.
county facility is within, our region, so it's recharging the same groundwater basin. That basin is located at 40th Street and H Street. So it's about 35-acre basin. And if we think about the groundwater basin, it's really a huge basin underlying the entire city and plus the whole region, right? So it serves exactly the purpose that was commented about and goes into like what we think about, the LA River that's completely channelized, and goes out to the ocean. And actually in San Bernardino, that many of the channels is earth bottomed. It may have some riprap, on the sides for reabandonment purposes, but the bottom of the channel is actually earth lined. So even if it does get into an open channel like that, it still allows the opportunity for water to infiltrate into the ground and get to the groundwater basin.
Okay,
Yeah.
so right now, you're connecting it to the county because it's the closest basin to
Right.
that area?
Right, yeah.
We can connect it to the ones we have, okay.
Yeah, so correct, exactly, yeah. So it has to connect to the county system in order to be conveyed to the regional recharge detention basin, which percolates the groundwater basins that covers the entire region.
Yeah, Alexander had questions too.
Yeah, and then if I can also say that there's another part of this whole groundwater recharge program, which is called the water quality management plan. And that's for all the new development that's turning, like a dirt area into a paved area. So all the increased runoff actually are required to construct a underground infiltration system. So that's for that exact purpose, to collect any kind of additional discharge, which would have run off to the street, would have needed to be collected by storm drain system. But in this case, that all these new land development will be, collected by these underground infiltration system that infiltrate and recharge our groundwater basin. So with this kind of, both two-pronged approach, so to speak, we are really able to capture all the runoff from our region to recharge our groundwater system.
Councilman Alexander?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Thank you for that report, and thank you for doing that. I remember we started working on this with Alex Kishta way back in the day to mitigate the runoff on Sierra Way, so I appreciate you doing that and making that this possible for the residents on Sierra Way, because that river is definitely bad during rainy season. You answered our questions as far as recapturing the water. I appreciate that, and I have no further questions and move for approval.
Council, is there any further comments from Councilwoman Calvin?
Right, I just needed some clarification. So the excess water that comes on Sierra Way will be going into the flood control, right?
Correct.
And that does go directly into the ocean, correct?
No, it goes
It does
into our
not.
ground. Right, it goes into our
It goes
groundwater
underground.
basin. Yes.
Is there excess that goes into the ocean? Is there any water that we need to capture or can capture? Any additional water that we can capture? Or does a portion of that water still go into the ocean?
No.
It does
This
not.
will be completely go to that regional basin, which will completely go to recharge the groundwater basin. Yeah, because the storm drain pipe will capture everything that runs on the street, and then the pipe connects to the county drain and then goes completely to this detention basin, and it will stay in that detention basin until it's percolated into the ground.
Thank you.
Thank you. There's a motion and a second. Any further comments? If not, can we call for the votes?
Councilmember Sanchez?
Yes.
Councilmember Ibarra?
Yes.
Councilmember Figueroa?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes.
Councilmember Calvin?
Yes.
Councilmember Alexander?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. The next item that was called for, pulled for the question by Councilwoman Calvin, item number 19.
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate that. So just wanted to piggyback on what former Councilman Ricky Van Johnson had mentioned on that resolution 2006-298. What we do see is that on Baseline, the street sign does say, and has been there for quite some time, that does say University Parkway. And Director Hernandez, Mr. City Manager, we've discussed this, so I believe that what we need to know now is just what next steps are needed to be taken in order so that the street is named, that portion of the street is named University Parkway officially. So what we do know is that, though, when we continue to go cross Highland Avenue and get into the city of Muscoy, that is the county, but then when we pick up, when we come out of Muscoy and then we pick back up, that street then still needs to be renamed to University Parkway. So, but that's going to be real crazy, and folks are going to be like, my goodness, what is going on, right? So conversations do need to be had between ourselves and the county. But nevertheless, the sign was placed there when the exit was created. Now, that sign has been there for quite some time. It's right there on Baseline at the beginning of the project on Baseline, and it says University Parkway. And so that's been there for years. And we just need to deal with that because it is quite confusing. But what we know is that the street was to be renamed as University Parkway. So if someone can just please get back to us with a report on that, I'd appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you. There's a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Madam City Clerk, please call for the votes.
Councilmember Sanchez?
Yes.
Councilmember Ibarra?
Yes.
Councilmember Figueroa?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes.
Councilmember Calvin?
Yes.
Councilmember Alexander?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Moving on to discussion items, items 22 to 24. Discussion item number 22, designation of voting delegates and alternates at the 2023 League of California Cities Annual Conference and Expo, September 20th to the 22nd of 2023. Could we begin with staff presentation?
Mayor, there's no staff presentation for this item.
Okay.
I guess the first
So can-
question would be to ask who's actually going.
So my understanding is that Councilwoman Ibarra, Mayor Pro Tem Charette, Councilwoman Calvin, and myself are attending. Are there any other council members attending other than who I've just announced?
Right.
So there are 4 members.
Yes, you just need 3.
So we just need a voting delegate and alternates.
alternates.
So 1 voting delegate and 2 alternates.
Correct.
Last year, who was? Okay, there's a nomination for Council Member Calvin.
I'll second.
Oh.
Okay, and alternates? I know.
You gonna be there?
Alternate, I nominate Fred Charette. Oh, I've already.
You gonna do that? Okay. So we
Okay.
need
I'll
one more.
I can take, and
We need-
I'll
we
be
need
there.
one more.
I will take the alternate.
Nominate the mayor.
So, Councilmember Ibarra, did you want to be alternate, or are you good?
I'm seconding whoever gets
Oh,
elected. I'm a
she doesn't
supporter of
want
my
the,
team here.
she doesn't want the duty.
Okay, looks like we
I
have.
have a caveat to this,
Yes,
though,
Mayor Pro
along
Tem.
this. The thing is the 20th of September. We're going to have one more meeting. I don't know if there's an opportunity before the 20th. We'll have one more meeting for the council. I don't know if there's an opportunity to find out what the issues are going to be, and so that we can discuss those issues. And I think the important thing is we don't send somebody up there to make their own mind up and say, well, I'm going to vote for this. I don't care what the council thinks. Not that you would.
Well,
Not that you would.
I'd like to piggyback on that, because when we went up before and we had some issues that were directly affecting the city of San Bernardino, staff was gracious enough to prepare a report for us, and we all had a script to follow, and we did, and carried that mission out quite well.
Yeah, and I'd like to be able to discuss that maybe prior to us going there. I don't know where that needs to be done, open session, I suppose, but.
Yeah, I think it would be, but staff can get you the information about the issues to be discussed.
Yeah,
so that you
hopefully
can vote.
they're simple issues that aren't going to be,
Yeah.
but we did have that one huge one last year.
Right.
And give credit to staff, to Ms. Calvin particularly, and anyone else there. I can't remember them all. I think everybody stepped up, and they turned that around. They had the staff support. They knew what they were talking about, and that was. I can't remember what the issue was. You can comment on it.
It was on local taxes. So anything that
It had
affects
to
our
do with
cities.
local.
Logistics, sales taxes.
What was it, sales taxes or something?
Logistics, sales taxes.
Right.
But the city, the people, our representatives up there, turned that thing around, and it was a victory.
Okay.
Because we had full support, and we were all working together on the same page.
Okay. Well, Madam Mayor, members of the council, we will get you the packet and then put it on the next agenda, that September meeting.
Right, and I believe the second meeting in September, we do go dark. Okay, just want to make sure.
Come back first meeting.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we'll have this come
For
back to us the
that
first
first
meeting of
meeting in
September.
September.
Okay,
Correct.
thank you so much.
Madam Mayor, if I may.
Yes.
I just want to again say thank you to the staff that when we have gone to Sacramento and when we've gone to DC, that the preparation that has gone into making sure that we have our appointments with our elected officials there in Sacramento and in DC, they have been extremely, extremely helpful and on point with all of the items that we needed to address. So I just want to say thank you.
Yes, thank you. We do have a motion, a second, Madam City
I
Clerk?
heard the nominations. I did not hear the motion maker or the seconder.
Move to select, approve the slate that was already mentioned, please.
And seconded by?
I want to make sure that I'm the second alternate. I want the mayor to be the first alternate, and I want Kim to be the primary.
Well, thank you.
Councilmember Sanchez?
Yes.
Councilmember Ibarra?
Yes.
Councilmember Figueroa?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem? Councilmember Calvin?
Yes.
Councilmember Alexander?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Next, discussion item number 23, administrative policies updating naming and renaming of city parks, recreational facilities, and amenities policy. Could we begin with the staff's presentation? Thank you, Emily.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and distinguished council members. Emily Bernal, Senior Management Analyst with the Office of the City Manager. So the item being brought to you this evening is an update to the existing naming and renaming of parks, facilities, and amenities policy that was originally approved back in 2010. Council previously directed staff to return with a process for renaming Gutierrez Park and Seacom Park. And in preparation, staff found that the existing policy had not been previously reviewed since its inception. So when staff went back to prepare for the staff report to bring forward, we realized that the existing policy had not been reviewed or updated. So staff took the opportunity to go ahead and do a thorough review of the policy and to make some changes in it. We did notice that there were some terms in there, some items in there that were no longer relevant. They were obsolete. So for example, there were some references to a legislative review committee, which has been disbanded for a couple of years. And so we needed to update that. And in addition to that, there were some references to the fire station and to a fire commission. So there were just a few things that needed to be updated to make it current and to also make it a lot clearer.
When was it last updated or?
2010 was when it was
2010.
approved, and it's never
Okay.
been
Gotcha.
updated since.
Thank you.
So it's been 13 years, right. Okay, so the proposed updates to the policy are listed in the staff report, and then also a copy of the original policy with the annotated changes was also included in the packet. So I won't go through all of the changes, but I do want to highlight that, as I mentioned, some of the items that are no longer relevant were removed from the policy. We did add some clarifying language that the policy is exclusive to facilities and amenities that are under the purview of the Parks, Recreation, and Community Services Department, and that same department is also designated as the lead. So from start to finish, they will make sure that everything is going through the process. We also clarified the eligibility criteria and also expanded the evaluation process to help staff and the public have a better understanding of that process and then ensure that it is streamlined. So ultimately, the goal wasn't to create a new policy, but just to make it, to make some updates and to clarify a few things and just to make it really easy to follow, not just for the staff, but also for the community. So this will hopefully continue to ensure that the requests are fully evaluated, that they're vetted by staff, and at least by one commission. There are instances with renaming where it will have to go through two commissions before it comes before council for final review and approval. But we wanted to do this, make sure that the process was clear, just to ensure that there is fairness, there's transparency, that there's equity, as discussions will continue to be held publicly. We want to encourage public participation in this process as we need critical feedback from the community. And then also, we want to make sure that implementation of this policy will obviously result in efficiency and effectiveness in this whole process. We also took the opportunity to update the application to make it more current as well, and also including the petition form. So staff is recommending that the mayor and city council approve the proposed revisions or provide direction for any modifications to the version that was presented to you this evening. So that concludes my briefing. Any questions?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Do any members of the, looks like there's a motion in a second, but do any members of the council wish to discuss the item or have any comments?
Yeah.
Councilmember Sanchez?
I just need something confirmed for me. So if you were to look at the new policy, page 2, section D, subsection 2B, the line reads, the individual must be identified as a City of San Bernardino resident, a member of the San Bernardino Service Organization, or employed within the city during his or her community or public service. So I think there's a pretty exhaustive list previous to that on how their impact needs to be a positive impact in the specific community here. So I wouldn't necessarily want to include that. It might bar some people who have had a significant positive impact, people here in San Bernardino. So I might want to strike that whole part there, or change the wording so it maybe suggests that could add up to a stronger case, but not put it in there as a must be identified as a San Bernardino resident, because it will bar some people.
Is it just the residency part that?
Yeah, well, it's the residency part, that it must include either a resident, a member of a San Bernardino service organization, or employed within the city during community or public service. So
yeah.
I'd want to make that clause not I guess not mandatory, but as a contributing factor to the quality of the candidacy for that.
The intent behind that was just to show that there's an excess between the individual and the city, and that they've made significant contributions.
And look, we have 2 pages before that require essentially that connection to be there.
Okay.
You know? I mean, you could almost pick out anything from the selection criteria, and it all includes things that would have to build a nexus between that candidate and the city. So I wouldn't want to bar anyone who's had a profound positive impact in the city just because they happen to be from just outside the city in Colton or anywhere else, right? So if we can strike,
Councilmember, which, can you refer to the section?
yeah, it's page 2 of the
Administrative policy?
Yeah, so it's attachment 2, the policy, the naming policy. So page 2, section D, subsection 2B. Does everyone see that? Good. Yeah, so can we just put, I don't know, I think we'd probably be better off just striking it.
Councilmember Sanchez?
Yeah.
Clarification. Are you saying that folks outside, you would be comfortable with naming parks or specific places after folks who do not live in San Bernardino or are not from San Bernardino? Did I understand that?
That during their contributing factor weren't residents of the city of San Bernardino. So, I mean, we have a whole list of things here that would require some sort of nexus to the city of San Bernardino, the community of San Bernardino. But requiring that residency will bar some people that I think have very positively contributed to the city. I mean, all you got to do is look at kind of the previous. I mean, you could, if you want, I could read them out. But there's a lot that's required that will create that nexus. So, is of an identified geographic location or name? No, let me see. Yeah, there's all sorts of attachments. You could see that whole policy requires that sort of thing. Again, I just don't want to limit someone who may have done good here. I don't know if I could come up with an example just top of my head. There's someone who was part of a nonprofit who worked here. Maybe it's a nonprofit that's regional. Could have done work here, but never lived here.
Mayor,
Never was a city employee.
That Councilman Sanchez is part of the existing policy, so it's not an addition that we're recommending. It's something that we're keeping from the policy that was already in existence from 2010. So that criteria has already been used by the city. Just wanted to provide a little bit
Yeah.
of perspective.
Yeah, but the new policy would
It
reinstitute
is.
that. That's what I'm
Correct.
saying. I would
Correct.
want to, I would want to strike that.
Okay,
So it's just that one item.
all right.
Yeah. Exactly. So can we
Madam
we
City
just
Attorney,
strike
did you
that?
have
It's
a
small-
comment you want to add?
Sorry, I was just I always try to listen to you and see ways that we might address the issue. So I was wondering if the criteria in number 2 is A or B, or you're reading it as A and B, because if you read it or, I think that might address the council members' concerns.
I don't see or there.
Right, and that's, but I'm offering that as a potential way to address your concern without taking out what was
Without
in
striking
the
it?
original
Oh,
document.
so there's A and then there's B. Yeah, okay, let's just put in or.
Thank you
Throw it
for
in
that
there.
suggestion, Madam City Attorney.
OR, subsection B. Well, Councilmember Charette, would you be amenable to adding that? Thanks. Done. Call for the question.
So there's a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Charette and seconded by Councilwoman Figueroa with the amendment to that section adding or, A or B. Are we good? Can we call for the votes?
I have a question.
Councilmember Ibarra?
On attachment 4, just want to make sure that the purpose or the first sentence is correct. I'm trying to make that out as a sentence if staff is looking at it. Purpose to establish guidelines and a process for considering requests to name or rename, and everything else is struck out. Was that the intent?
I'm sorry, what section?
It's attachment number 4, naming. It's the redlining.
Okay.
Everything's crossed off, so I don't know if that was intentionally made.
It's to show
or
the changes on the
if you wanted to
policy.
keep-
To
It's
show the changes in the policy.
Correct, so for me, it doesn't sound like a complete sentence, so I just want to make sure.
I'm sorry, which section?
The first sentence under purpose?
I'm sorry, I don't understand the question.
Okay, so the original cross-out, so you have to establish guidelines and a process for considering requests to name or rename, and that's where it stops. And then it goes to a new sentence after that. I'm not sure if you wanted to put in there to name or rename city-owned property, property dedicated to the city for public
Councilwoman
purposes. or not.
Ibarra, if I could refer you to the clean version, it's easier to follow, and I'll read the sentence. It says, "The policy established guidelines and a process for considering requests to name or rename city-owned and operated parks, recreational facilities, and amenities." So it's easier to read in the clean version of the policy.
And that's attachment number 2?
Yes.
Okay.
Are we good?
That's good.
Okay, thank you. There's a motion and a second with the amendment. Please call for the votes.
Councilmember Sanchez,
Yes.
Councilmember Ibarra,
Yes.
Councilmember Figueroa,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem,
Yes.
Councilmember Calvin,
Yes.
Councilmember Alexander.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Next, discussion item number 24, appropriation and city manager authorization to approve various emergency nuisance and building health and safety abatement costs. Could we begin with the staff's presentation? Thank you, Mary.
Yes, good evening, Honorable Mayor and distinguished members of the City Council. For your consideration is an appropriation and city manager authorization to approve various emergency nuisance and building health and safety abatement costs. Over the past a year and several months, as you know, we've been building up our code enforcement department, and as we're gearing that up, we're able to provide a lot more proactive enforcement within the community, targeting buildings that are in disrepair, dilapidated. The conditions are quite poor. And as we're doing that, we're finding that there could be some properties that we have residents that are illegally occupying commercial and industrial properties specifically. Those are the ones we're targeting. In some cases, these are abandoned and neglected buildings, and we're seeing increasing health and safety issues. So when our code enforcement team does need to go in and abate some of these properties, in some cases issues what's called a red tag or a notice to vacate a property, and we have residents in there, there may be situations where the city may consider providing some level of assistance to move those residents out on an emergency basis. So as we have been looking at some of our funding sources, we do have some ARPA funds allocated, available to allocate. We're targeting a specific category of funding as these situations come up. We don't know how many are out there yet or how much funding we'll need, but we did want to set aside this money as we kind of continue on that code enforcement effort. Generally, when we're looking at these particular properties, this is a task force effort. We have a whole team here at the city offices that come together to meet. This includes our police department, our police chief, our code enforcement, building and safety, our housing division's an important component. We're in finance, parks, public works. County Fire Department has been very involved with our efforts as well, and then bringing in our partners, the county, for various services. So with that, we wanted to have some mechanism in place as we go forward, something that we could utilize as needed. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have, and at this time.
Thank you, Mary. Council members, any questions?
Move to approve.
Okay, there's a motion.
Second.
There's a second by Councilmember Calvin, and not seeing any further comments. Can we call for the votes?
Councilmember Sanchez,
Yes.
Councilmember Ibarra,
Yes.
Councilmember Figueroa,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem, Councilmember Calvin,
Yes.
Councilmember Alexander.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Moving on to items to be considered for future meetings. Number 27, Councilmember Alexander, could you speak on your request?
Revenue generating properties that the city has and see if it's beneficial to the city. We've had some issues in the past, where Piscalini Field was not being best being utilized as far as contracts. Thanks to Director Gutfield, she squared that away. That just brought it to my attention that we should review all contracts of all revenue generating properties, that we may make sure that it's best for the city. That's it.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Please call for the votes.
Councilmember Sanchez,
Yes.
Councilmember Ibarra,
Yes.
Councilmember Figueroa,
No.
Mayor Pro Tem, Councilmember Calvin,
Yes.
Councilmember Alexander. Okay, the motion passes 5-1 with Councilmember Figueroa voting in opposition.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager.
I want to clearly, council approval, with council approval, we'll move forward. But the one note that I want to make clear is that following up on this, we have a number of priorities that we're working on already, and the various entities that are working on this would then have to work on the new items. So I'm suggesting that we can do it, but it's not going to be at a high priority right now. Because, for example, the work that we're doing on the Carousel Mall and the SLA process, the same people who are doing that would then be tasked with, because these are our employees in the, they're Economic Development Unit, but they're also the real property people. And those folks are working through the SLA, HCD, as well as on the Carousel Mall. So we got a number of things going on, and I simply want to suggest that the council have some sensitivity to the fact that we've got a limited staff and we want to stay on our priorities, but at the same time taking on new items will affect that going forward. Not that we can't do this, but I'm just simply saying, priority-wise, it's going to fall to the back of the line unless you want us to drop something else.
Thank you for that. Any comments from the council? No? Okay, moving on to item 28. Councilmember Sanchez, could you speak on your request?
Yeah, I kind of appreciate what the city manager said and then how my colleague Juan Figueroa voted. We're at almost like 80 of these now, and it's getting out of hand. The city staff can't do anything because, but actually, item 23 was something I brought over a year ago, and it took just until, well, it just got done now. So yeah, we're getting a little out of hand here.
So you're
But with
scratching
that,
off 28?
with that said, there was a policy in place on the Neighborhood Pride Award. What is it called? Yeah, the Neighborhood Pride Award. And I think council supported that years ago. And you know why it went away? Because staff just didn't have time. So it's not like it went away because council said, this is not a program we want to invest in. It just went away because, you know, we just never got around to doing it. Staff didn't see it as a priority. So it's something that I don't think should have to come back this way. This should have been something where staff should have said, hey, look, we can do this administratively. In fact, we have, I think, 24 boxes with these these awards. They're these wooden trophies with the that we would award, and there's even a process on how to nominate someone for this award. And they said, well, if you want to reinstate this program, you know, put it on the agenda. This should have been something that staff could have said, this has been a priority of the previous councils. The only reason it went away was because of bankruptcy and short staff, but that's gone away, so let's bring this program back. It encourages responsible citizens. So I'm disappointed that I had to bring it back this way, but it's a program I support. And we had a speaker here who said, you know, let's give a little encouragement to that person who lives in a neighborhood of 300, 500 houses, and they're the only house with a green lawn and prune bushes and trimmed trees, and they go out there on a hot day and do all that yard work and look around and see everything else out of whack, but they continue to do that. And let's help motivate them to continue to be good citizens in our community. So that was really compelling to me, and so I'll encourage my colleagues to vote yes, but let's hope that I gave a hint to staff that maybe they can bring this back on their own.
Yeah.
Mr. City
And we will,
Manager?
and I don't mean to imply that when council votes to refer these to staff, that it's not a priority. I'm just simply saying, we get so many priorities, and then we've got to make a decision, which ones do we deal with first? And as I said, in this particular case, we've got 2 people in real property, and we have a lot of surplus property that we're dealing with, that we're going through the SLA process with. And so how far do you stretch your staff? And when we don't come back with things you say are the top priorities, then that becomes an issue for you, and then it becomes an issue for staff.
So, Councilmember Figueroa, I just wanted to say that I forgive you when you vote no, okay? But I'll make the motion to approve.
Councilwoman Calvin, you have a comment?
Yes, thank you, Councilmember Sanchez, for that. I also think that this is a way for us to incorporate the neighborhood association. And then we can partner. That would be an excellent partnership. They're the ones that are in the communities all the time. And this is just a great way to bring in our community partners and allow them to help us with looking at houses in our neighborhoods and being part of that selection process. I think that this would be great for them.
Thank you. There's a motion and a second.
Councilmember Sanchez?
Yes.
Councilmember Ibarra?
Yes.
Councilmember Figueroa?
No.
Mayor Pro Tem? Yes. Councilmember Calvin?
Yes.
Councilmember Alexander?
Yeah, and I had a comment. I'm sorry you didn't see my hand. I had my hand up. But
My
before I
apologies.
vote yes on this, no worries. It's all good. I'm saying maybe instead of, staff doing this, maybe the council members ourselves can do this with recommendations from our neighborhood associations and those who make recommendations. Maybe we can do this ourselves instead of laying this upon staff. And that's my idea, and
Motion passes 5-1 with Councilmember Figueroa voting in opposition.
Thank you. Moving on to Mayor and City Council updates. I will start with Councilmember Sanchez.
Can you come back to me, please?
Sure. Councilwoman Ibarra.
Several meetings that I've recently attended where there was a senior living center in the 2nd Ward, very well attended, a lot of good questions from community members, and I want to express my gratitude to staff that attended because they were able to address their concerns right there on the spot. And that's the HEPA Senior Center off of Parkside. Those special requests from them. The other meeting that I attended was the Coffee with the Cop, the special one with our county DA, Mr. Jason Anderson. Great turnout as well. I would highly encourage our community members to, when they see something that's posted or shared on social media, please attend those meetings. You never know where you're gonna find out and how your current quality of life is being affected by certain laws that are coming down the pipeline. So those are 2 of the meetings that I've attended recently, and great turnout on both of them, and answers were given to community members. So thank you to all who were part of the making of those meetings.
Thanks. So the first case of West Nile virus was discovered in San Bernardino last week. The disease is spread through mosquitoes who often breed in small puddles of standing water. So it's especially dangerous for older individuals, but fatigue and weakness can last for months, and it can affect all of us. So we should all, it's kind of the theme I've been going with, I think, at today's council meeting, that we all are a part of the success we want to see in our city, in our state, and in our country. We can't depend on staff and police and everyone else to make this place better. We all have to play a part. And so when you see your neighbor's pool half empty and it's a green slime, report it, because mosquitoes breed in that, and they spread through the neighborhood, and they're harming people's health. So don't just turn a blind eye. And so I read something recently that kind of clearly I think states this. So I want to read it out to you. It's a couple sentences. So the necessity of obeying the law is obvious. It is not just the penalties from the fines to imprisonment that potentially follow if we do not, but also the recognition that no society of any sort, much less a democratic one, can endure amid widespread lawlessness. Order is a necessary prerequisite for everything we value, from the personal to the professional, and from the mundane to the profound. Norms, though, are something else, something more. Norms are the unwritten traditions, rules, customs, conventions, codes of conduct, and practices that reduce friction and brittleness. Laws provide the scaffolding of a society, but the norms are what fill it in and make it livable, the furniture within the building, so to speak. The argument here is that observation of the law, and to be more precise, the letter of the law, is necessary but insufficient for this or any democracy to endure, much less thrive. Observations of norm is required as well. Norms are related to the spirit and the intent of the law, to behaviors that for one reason or another cannot be legislated or formally required. So again, just because there isn't a law that says you should do this, doesn't mean you should turn a blind eye to the problem facing you every day when we drive or walk throughout this city. So everyone do your part, and again, the mosquitoes are out there, so report the puddles of water. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilmember Figueroa?
Thank you. Not so much an announcement as much as just an update. I recently had an opportunity, along with Councilmember Sanchez Charette, and even former Councilmember Brinker. We all joined with Habitat for Humanity, along with a few other sponsors in the city, like Burtech and We Are the Change, Target, and many others as well. And it was just a great opportunity to get out there and give a little bit something back. I know that there's going to be another opportunity coming up again in a couple of months. I believe on the, if I'm correct, it's in the fourth, somewhere in the fourth ward later this year. So it's a great opportunity to give back. So I encourage people, if there's another opportunity to volunteer, to please pitch in as well. So thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Charette?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Two announcements for upcoming events. August 26th, Saturday, 8 a.m. to 12 noon, the monthly cleanup by the Dr. Nag neighborhood group. Dan Doreen is the contact at 909-883-4039. These folks go out once a month and clean up the general neighborhood up in the Del Rosa area. And I think they go beyond there from time to time as well. And then the same day, August 26th at 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. at the San Manuel Stadium, that is 280 South East Street, Community Dump Day, document shredding and mulch giveaway. So you can take documents, they'll shred them for you, and you can pick up mulch if you need it. I think I've done it a couple of times, and it's very helpful to get rid of some of those old documents that you have in boxes in the garage that you're never going to look at again. Don't think you have to go through them to see if there's an important one in there, because I can tell you there isn't one. I've done it. And I also wanted to comment on the Coffee with a Cop. We brought all four divisions, all four districts together, north, east, west, and south. They met up at the Elks Lodge on Tuesday. It was a great turnout. I'd like to personally thank my safety commissioner, Junior Carrero, who really kind of came up with the idea, talked it over with the chief, decided to do this. It was a great turnout. Jason Anderson was very, very informative. There was actually 138 people there that morning. The mayor was there, Ms. Ibarra, Mr. Sanchez, and myself were all there. It was a great turnout. Yeah, I did talk to the chief about it. We don't want to get too excited about this, joining these all together like this. I think he's interested in maybe doing it once a year or maybe once every 6 months or so, bring all the divisions together. But he still wants to keep it really, Coffee with a Cop is really supposed to be regionally done for your area. So if you're living in the north or the east, you try to look online and attend those. We have those four divisions. We have a Coffee with a Cop once a month. So it was a great turnout, and I want to thank everybody for doing it, and thank the PD for all that they do. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Councilmember Calvin?
Yes, thank you so much, Mayor. I appreciate that. So, of course, it had already been mentioned in the city manager's report that yesterday we were able to welcome our very first City of San Bernardino's Youth Council. So give it up for Corey and Emily and Kylie. I appreciate you guys so very much for working. That has been about a year and a couple of months coming. I haven't put very many things to be brought forward, but that is definitely one. And just kept having to babysit it and make sure that it got here, and it did. And so thank you guys so very much. I think it's the opportunity of a lifetime for the scholars of this city to be able to see exactly how our government runs here at City Hall. And they are our future, and they will be the ones taking our seats. So let's just properly train them so that they can go ahead on and do that and be a better us. So I appreciate all of the efforts. I attended the Honoring Heroes, Illuminating the Journey of Veterans Trauma Recovery last week at Sierra Lakes. It was a wonderful event. And this past Sunday, speaking about youth, Mayor Deborah Robertson and the Blue Shades of Blue Aviation had a symposium at our airport. And over 100 kids turned out on Sunday. I think the San Bernardino City Unified School District brought out a large number of scholars on Saturday. So all of these scholars were able to learn about aviation. There was a lot of simulators there, so they thought that they were actually flying planes, and it was wonderful to see the light in their eyes that maybe, you know, one day they could be a pilot. Males and females, and so that was awesome. I really thank her for choosing our airport, because she could have chosen a couple of other ones to do, but she did decide to choose it here in San Bernardino, and I appreciate that. And Mr. Mike Burrows came out as well from the IVDA and sat out there and enjoyed a day with the scholars. Northwest PAC this past Monday had former Assemblymember Cheryl Brown as a guest speaker, and she talked about aging, and it's something that, you know, of course, we all have to talk about and think about, and whether or not you can afford to age was the question, and I thought, wow, that's a good question to think about. So these are things that are going on in our city. We appreciate all that our staff is doing. You guys are doing a remarkable job, every last one of you, and I couldn't be more grateful that you are here representing our city along with us. So thank you guys so very much for everything that you do.
Thank you. Councilmember Alexander?
Yes, Mayor, I appreciate it. Thank you so much. First of all, I'd like to I'd like to give a birthday shout out to one of our residents in the 7th Ward, Miss Eleanor May Riccio. She turns 100. Her birthday will be on 9/1/1923, and we will be celebrating her birthday this Saturday at the Elks Club. So come on out and celebrate Miss Eleanor May's birthday. So Eleanor, congratulations on reaching on 100 years old. It is a milestone to be sure. I attended, along with Council Member Figueroa, we went to the Water Department, and we did also supported them in their check presentation at the Water Department during their board meeting. I also attended the North End Neighborhood Association, my neighborhood association board meeting, and Lieutenant Luna was the guest speaker, and I also said a few words. And I also attended the BIA Regional Water Conference in Ontario, California, which I learned a lot about recapturing water, excuse me, recapturing water at that Regional Water Conference. Just to remind everyone again that the San Bernardino Symphony Orchestra will be on September 9th at Roosevelt Bowl. It will be on our city website, so please come on out and remember, it is free. The San Bernardino Symphony Orchestra with the best symphony orchestra west of the Mississippi under the direction of Anthony Parthner. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. All right. The meeting was adjourned at 9:55 p.m. The Mayor and City Council and the Mayor and City Council acting as the successor agency to the Redevelopment Agency will adjourn to a special closed session meeting to be held on this Friday, August 18th, 2023 at the Feldheim, actually it's not the Feldheim Library. It's going to be located at 201
multi-purpose
Northeast Street, second floor conference room, San Bernardino, California, 92401. Special closed session will begin at 2 p.m. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.